Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Friday. It is the last day of July. And I've got Steve Friend with me. It's a Friday. So we're going to try to, have some fun things. I'm going to run through kind of an argument with you that occurred to me as I watched something. I got a text message from somebody in DC that sort of said the same thing. And it made me go, okay, there's a little bit more to this. The question is who the hell's running the GOP? In theory, if you're the president of the United States of America and you are a member of a political party, then you are the boss of that party. Like, you have some sort of leadership responsibility. That is the standard. Everyone assumes that you have the most executive authority. They call you the leader of the free world. You should be the leader of the party that is governing. And there's two things that are happening at once. Number one is that we're seeing Donald Trump essentially tacitly admit that he's not that. And then we're seeing the actions that follow on that prove that he's not and that he's correct. So it makes people wonder who's in charge. It makes you think the whole concept of the uniparty continues to gain, more evidence behind it every single day. And that just leads you to one inevitable question. If everybody being voted in is not really running the show, or if everybody is kind of answering to things, and the entire thing that we see in DC is controlled opposition involved in theater, where I present one thing today, I'm the fighter, and tomorrow I'm the defender, and the next day I'm the fighter, and we're going to write sternly worded letters, and we're going to have hearings, but nothing's going to happen, and we're going to honor the auto pen, but we're going to talk shit about the auto pen. If that's going to be the way that things operate, then the conclusion that I have always come to, and I keep coming to this, and it really upsets people, is that you don't vote your way out of this. It doesn't mean that you go pick up a gun and start shooting people. It doesn't mean you start getting violent right away, but it does mean that this solution that you keep presenting, it isn't what you think it is. You're not going to be able to get the people that are acting in these roles to end up in the place that you want. You cannot hope that something's going to come out of something when the evidence continues to point the opposite. So we'll get into that. And like I said, I think there's a number of these things. And what it leads people down the road of is, if I can't get involved in this, then I might as well have fun with a really exciting fantasy LARP where I'm solving murders or I'm involved in cases. I'm going to find Nancy Guthrie's mom, whatever her name was. Was it Nancy Guthrie that was missing, or Samantha? Doesn't matter to me right now. I've got the timeline. We'll talk about that. You can roll people up. You can have the police do all kinds of wild things. We might as well have surveillance, or maybe we shouldn't have surveillance. So you have these debates about these proxy things. At the end of the day, the only thing that people are actually able to control are very, very narrow circumstances within their own space. And I actually think that's liberating and empowering to recognize that, you're really not running any of this stuff, and you probably don't have a say. So you can stay on the things that you do have a say on and spend your energy there, which I think is much better. That being said, one of the things you can do, you can, in fact, protect your online information. You can pretty much shield yourself from a lot of different snooping eyes out there, and most of you probably are not aware the fact that there are hundreds of companies. We've never heard of the names of these companies. They're publishing your home phone number and your address and your cell phone number and what service provider you have and emails and names of your kids and so on. And most of us are not that creative when it comes to making up passwords, when it comes to making up our security questions. They're actually relatively easy to find. So if someone Googles your name, finds out where you live, knows what your home looks like, can find your email address, they find out what sort of companies you're doing business with, they oftentimes can find you on Facebook or some of these other sort of family tree websites, and then they're going to have the answers to a lot of the information that you would use to set up for your security. And if they can find a hack username, God forbid a password, they can get a password to your email address. They can actually get inside your accounts. They can empty bank accounts and so on and so forth. They can impersonate you and set up accounts and drain your credit, destroy it. Patriot Protect is out there finding these websites, these data brokers, wiping them off the map, getting your information off so the criminals don't search for it. It doesn't happen immediately. It takes a period of time. And even after they take it down, it takes a little while for those things to disappear from the rolls of the scammers and the cyber criminals and so on. But you're going to see most likely the lowering of your threat profile online. If you want to be unsearchable, you want to have less exposure to the weirdos out there. You probably have less weirdos than me. But there are weirdos that are in all of our lives, it turns out. And if you guys want to just make yourself just a little bit more cloaked and camouflaged from them, Check out Patriot Protect. The website is patriot-protect.com/Kyle. If you were watching, you just saw it on the screen. There's also a link in today's show description, as usual. With promo code Kyle, you'll save 15%. Takes it down to about $5 a month for the lowest protection, which gets, I think that's what we have here. Patriot-protect.com/KYLE. Link in the show description. Check it out. See if it makes sense to you. It's a fire and forget solution. It's one of those things that you spend a few dollars on one time, and then you don't worry about it for the rest of the year until it renews. Check them out. 15% off. Promo code Kyle. Let's do today's program. We'll bring on Steve Friend. I'm trying to stay sane, sober, relaxed, calm. I went for a run yesterday, Steve Friend, and I did my fastest 5K en route to doing a controlled 5-mile run on a treadmill. Wow. And I still feel it today. I'm not a runner, I'm a guy who sometimes runs. I'm also honest about that. And I'm also, in your honor today, wearing a non-restrictive waistband. I found some new gym shorts that I'm kind of into.
Well, I mean, it's all around the celebratory week, right? I mean, you are wearing a non-restrictive waistband, as am I, in memorialization of National Whistleblower Appreciation Week. I mean, you might be exhausted from running, or you might just be recovering from having tied one on 2 days ago, July 30th, 2026. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Chuck Grassley.
What did we win? What happened?
We won the ability to get weird direct messages and emails from people who say that they've been whistleblowing for 30 years and you're just killing it so bad that they want you to take their information. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the 85-pound chick in the gym who comes up to you and says, like, you look kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Why don't you lift weights and then that'll get me jacked? And I look down and I'm like, dad bod at best. I don't know where you're coming up with that sort of configuration. But other than that, just home, living the dream, fantasy cap creator.
Did someone send you some almonds, Steve?
Someone did, actually.
Can you tell the story? Because you dropped that casually into our friend chat the other day, and it makes me happy to know that somebody thought of you and they were like, I can feed Steve Friend for a year. Here's some number of almonds. How many did you get?
I got 24 canisters of almonds. So I should be good on through the next National Whistleblower.
Wait, you got what? You got 24?
I got 24 canisters of almonds. They were, half of them, 12 were like the smoke flavor, and the other
one like
were
blue diamond nuts?
Yes, blueberry flavored ones too. I mean, it was like
weird.
Willy Wonka style, but I think Madam Friend, she commandeered the blueberry one. She said they're really good.
That's good for her. Listen, I used to work with a guy who represented Blue Diamond Nuts. Did I tell you this? I think I have.
No, but you're Wolverine, so why?
But yes, so I used to work in radio sales, and one of the clients that one of my guys had was Blue Diamond Nuts. I'm boosting your audio. People said it's a little low. Blue Diamond Nuts, he had all these professional samples, and he'd walk around, and whenever you were on a sales call and you're dialing for dollars and you're trying to get somebody to buy advertising from you or agree to a meeting or whatever it was, or maybe you're even talking to one of your clients, and he would walk by and he would go, sack of nuts, and he would throw the nuts at you, and you get hit with like the almonds, and you're like, and I can't remember what his name was, but he was like, do you remember the movie Office Space? There was that guy, his name was like Drew.
Yes.
And he was always making the gross faces about like pretending.
About the O-face? Yes.
Yeah, the O-face guy. He was like that, but he was slightly better looking, but he had that kind of personality in the office when he'd run around and just be inappropriate. And getting hit in the face while someone's yelling sack of nuts is it's demoralizing when you're 22, 23 and it's your first professional job and you're sitting there in
and you're getting hung up on repeatedly, cold call.
And you're trying to do your thing. Yeah, you're getting hung up on all day long as you like dial up and they're like, no, I'm not interested. And you hang up and you're like, and then about 2 or 3 hours into it, someone hits you in the face with a professional sample of Blue Diamond. But they're good almonds.
Oh yeah, top notch. I mean, it's not like bottom of the shelf generic great value from Walmart like you buy the yellow tag beef. Like those are
that's what you would normally buy.
That's normally where I'm at. That thus is the situation for the indefinitely suspended, I guess fired and permanently unemployed wearing a non-restrictive waistband for EVs. Thank you, Chuck Grassley.
All right. Substance. Here's the deal. The argument that I'd like to make, and I played this, I tossed it out on social media. I may or may not have gotten a text message from someone who's kind of in the same mindset in DC. I'm not going to say more. Donald Trump is tacitly admitting that he's not in charge of his party. And that really flies in the face of the trust the plan types, I think. I don't know how you reconcile these things. I'm going to have you listen to it. It's only 20 seconds or so long. Tell me that the man is not saying that he's just limping to the edge here. And then we're going to go into some evidence of it in some today's news stories. Ready? Here we go.
Leader Thune, what's your reaction to him saying that there's no evident path to success on killing the filibuster or passing the Save America Act?
Well, that's too bad for him. I mean, that's too bad for him and too bad for the Republican Party.
Do you believe that?
He's got the votes. He should get it done. He should be able to get it done.
What do you think? What does that mean?
Well, I even take that to mean that he doesn't consider himself to be a member of the Republican Party. That's the sort of comment you would make if you were making an outside observation. I think that all history has shown that Donald Trump is the leader when it comes to elevating candidates. I mean, the guy goes out there and gives his stamp of approval onto people who were some of the worst representatives, to include the duly departed Lindsey Graham, who apparently is his best friend of all time, even though half a decade ago was saying, I hate this guy and he can go to hell. So
yeah, and we're done with him, and his supporters should be shot in the head.
Yeah. So it's the political game of we're going to campaign, and then the assumption that us just showing up makes everything better. There's only one job that I can think of where if you show up, it makes the situation better, and that's mom when the kids are sick or have a nightmare. Like
his dad too, if you get home from work.
Sure, yeah.
That's it. It's parental figures that pop in, which does kind of go towards some of the sort of nonsense that people think that, how many times in the first couple of months did we see that we're so back, baby,
yes,
to the point where it just became embarrassing? You just had the guy tell you that one of the things he ran on was that the election was not secure. We just got through an election cycle where apparently it wasn't secure, but it was too big to rig, allegedly. You end up talking to people that are in that space. My buddy Joe Alden spends a ton of time in there, and he's just like, no, they just realized they needed a bleed-off valve. So Donald Trump was the guy he was selected to win, because otherwise, I think Americans would have gotten violent. I think there was an edge where people were looking at it and they're like, there was so much rhetoric saying this is the end of the line for the country, democracy, freedom. They're going to take your children and trans them against your will. Like the communists are going to steal all your stuff. They're going to appropriate your mansion or whatever. Like all the thoughts that came out of the 2024 were really kind of do or die moments, unless I'm misremembering things.
I mean, from a policy perspective, other than a pardon for a bunch of J6ers, we effectively got like a Hillary Clinton style presidency for all intents.
From like 2000, like Hillary Clinton as a senator.
Yes. Yeah,
like 20 years ago, Hillary Clinton.
I mean, you vote in the election that you're voting in, right? You can't say, well, I voted for Donald Trump in 2024 because I opposed Hillary Clinton in 2016. He was the alternative to Kamala Harris, who represented a furthering of the Joe Biden presidency. I can't even call it the auto pen presidency anymore, because I guess that's something that we have to respect now.
We have to respect the auto pen. Well, listen here, let's play that. And I played these both yesterday. I'm hitting them again because in the vacuum of, well, who's in charge? And when the guy comes out and tells you that he campaigned on something, and then they're done with the campaign promise. We're going to lock up the bad guys. We're going to clean up the thing. Whatever happened to, I haven't heard someone say drain the swamp in forever.
No.
Nobody's interested.
When's the last time you heard about Project 2025?
God, that was such a big deal. Project 2025. I used to have a soundboard that would be like, Project 2025. Because they were acting like it was the implementation of fascism. Nobody's crying about that right now. Who's crying about Russ Vought being in charge? Over at what, OMB? Is that where he's at?
Yeah, he's in charge of OMB, and they're crying about how the feds are not giving enough grants out to leftist states. And that's like the really nerdy Politico type. But other than that, the villain that he was, no, it's just a nerd wearing glasses who fired me because I was friends with Kyle Seraphin.
That's not what he says. I've got a December 2020, the second to last day of the year in Donald Trump's last year in office. And it's an article from NPR talking about the bonkers conspiracy theories that people are willing to attach themselves to. And we're having that moment pack up again because you know what I haven't heard for a while? And I monitor social media like in a disgusting way. Where are the people who are screaming about the second shooter at Butler that was up on the water tower that took the 400-foot long zip line? Where are those people? Those people have moved on. And so I got a postcard the other day. Yesterday I got it in. I check the box every once in a while, and I got a couple of nice things. One of them was a really nice postcard from somebody whose name was indecipherable, but you know who you are. And you said, where's the Q PSYOP video? because I need it. I need to share it with my friends who are Q-tards. And it seems like the people that are susceptible to being told, if you just sit back at home and wait because the Patriots are in charge. And I talked about this with Bobby Sauce. Interestingly enough, I think Bobby Sauce has kind of like gone into the category of people that in certain instances believes that. And that doesn't make him my enemy, by the way. People who think crazy things to me, you know, like, I just think it's crazy that you believe that. But we all have weird, crazy beliefs. Like you believe that you don't need to eat bread. And I don't know why that is. And it's like, I want you to eat bread, but you don't.
It's the spice of life, right? Like I've had interactions with people who.
Did you say you've had erections?
No, I don't think so. But you know, then again, this is like a podcast, so you know, it could be like Daniel Bongino. I don't know what's going on beneath the desk there. Now that Jim Nance is John Nance,
yeah,
Fave's person. But I've had interactions with people who I consider friends and seem completely normal on a whole host of issues. We don't see eye to eye on everything because nobody sees eye to eye on everything, but most things. And then all of a sudden, this one particular thing, they're like, oh yeah, let me light your chat up. The chemtrails that are definitely happening right now.
I thought we were getting RFK Jr. to get rid of them. Listen, there are people that believe things that I think are completely nuts. Here's one of them. He sometimes joins the show. That's Ryan Matta in the form of a grasshopper who's currently drinking Coca-Cola out of a plastic bag. And I think he's doing so in El Salvador or Saudi Arabia or wherever he moved. And it's obviously better than where we live now because he says so. But I don't believe him. I think he's nuts. I think he's either going to be a millionaire and in charge of El Salvador in 5 years, or he's going to be dead and someone's going to be appropriating his garments, dividing up his garments and casting lots for them or something, like some cartel guys. End of the day, we can have friends that don't agree with us on stuff. But what I did see was that a lot of people kind of had this break, and that break happened. It was set up by a multi-month long insanity that was the COVID rollout, the lockdowns that rolled across the country, and everybody handled it differently. Every state kind of handled it slightly differently, but they all did really dumb stuff. There was objectively dumb things coming out, and they came from a central position at the top of the government. And I just want to share this with people before we play this little auto pen thing, just so people can understand that otherwise sane people, and I understand why you might not trust people in government, because it's not that they're diabolical geniuses doing evil shit. It's that they're functionally retarded people doing this. This is from Jennifer Moore. This is the woman who took your security clearance. Do you want to read some of this stuff? Just, can you read it on there?
Is this one of her captain's logs?
This is one of her captain's logs, yeah. You can just read the highlighted stuff, probably.
Wait, did I say humoring me? I should pay you all back with a joke. What did the gingerbread man put on his bed? Wait for it. Wait. A cookie sheet. Before I get into our shout-outs, I want to address one more thing that was like a giant elephant in the room this week, the COVID vaccine. On the off chance any of you did not see the guidance that headquarters put out this week, to sum it up quickly, all agent personnel will be afforded the COVID vaccine first.
Okay, hold on. And so that's agents. Now, listen, folks, this is the FBI. Agents are the top job, but they're not the only job. And Jennifer Moore, who was the person that took our clearance, she needed to make sure that the non-agents also still felt good because she's a leftist. Okay?
Yes.
They're going to get it first. That's the context of this. Do you want to see the other one? This one's even worse. This is what we're going to get into. This is pardonable material, I think. I'll let you read too, because it's gross.
I'll close out this week with how super grateful I am that I was.
How grateful are you?
Super grateful.
Very good.
I mean, I would prefer to see MAGA Doppler grateful, but
yes.
I'll take it. I'm super grateful I am that I was able to get my second COVID vaccine, aka the Fauci ouchie.
Say that again for me. What is it called?
Second COVID vaccine, aka the Fauci ouchie. Maybe she was vaccine injured when she was making all these.
No, what I think is that, and I told people this before, I'm pretty confident that the woman who ran human resources under the Biden administration, the executive assistant director, was essentially a crazier version of Miss Lippy from Billy Madison. And if nobody was looking, she was drinking in one hand a glass of red wine, and in the other hand, she was eating the glue from a popsicle stick. She was just eating the paste.
Yeah, I mean, I could see her with like the Slurpee, like big gulp of Franzia wine levels of alcohol consumption going on during the day.
And people told me that she was drunk in the office, but when she wasn't in the office, she was drinking at home and writing things like super grateful and Fauci ouchie. Go ahead and you can read the rest of this thing.
Yeah,
the
she was
highlighted
planning
stuff.
her Halloween dress like a sexy
This is, by the way, this
agent.
is an email that went out to several hundred FBI employees. This is the woman who was in charge of the intelligence gathering capabilities for the Washington field office of the FBI, on January the 6th. So this is a woman who failed in being able to understand what was going on, despite the number of sources that were traveling and people that were inside the crowd and all the other things. All of this stuff is crazy. This is the person that I work for, and she was my boss's boss. She came down, and the first time I ever met her, she said, I want to just get to know you. Tell me what your favorite dessert is. Mm-hmm. And I should have said FBI executive skull ice cream cones or something. I should have had some like really nasty thing to say. Do you remember they gave like the monkey brains in Temple of Doom?
Yes.
And they were eating the monkey brains out of the actual monkey skulls. Should have told her that was my favorite.
That would have been good. I mean, when she came to visit the Jacksonville division, she announced to the entire field office at a mandatory meeting that it was dishonorable for people to be concerned about lowering of fitness standards for agents, and we needed to really be concerned about the pay rate for the GS-10s in San Francisco, and that all of the staffing around the entire country was maxed out, and we really needed more managers at headquarters.
Everyone knows we need more managers at headquarters. Whatever your job is, you always know that we need more managers because the managers have said they need more managers. The reason I'm bringing this stuff up is that this is actually happening under Donald Trump, for whatever it's worth. This was written while Donald Trump was in.
Operation Warp Speed was a massive success. You can't seem to get over it. But all right, so furthering on what Drunk Jenny says, I was briefed on Thursday last week that FBI headquarters has come through securing additional vaccines, so everyone who wanted the vaccine but hasn't received it yet will have the option shortly. The lady who administered my second dose said lots of people have cried when they received it, not because it hurt, but because they were so relieved to have the vaccine. I completely understand the emotional response. I will be so relieved once the nanny has her second dose. Is the nanny her kid?
Dude, I don't know what the nanny is.
I presume that's her
It could
child.
be herself. I read that, and for a second I thought it was like her mother, but her husband had died, and she's not young, so I don't.
Oh, no, it's the next sentence. My mom has struggled to get scheduled in Florida. I bet it's her mother.
But I don't know if, like, who calls their mom the nanny?
It might be an Italian thing. I can't speak.
No, Italian is known. It's Nona.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, who's?
It's not, because that's what my kids call their grandmother.
She's doing faux Italian.
I don't know what she's doing. And my point to you is that this was happening under the Biden administration. So it starts off with the introduction that we're going to do this like little thing. And then it ends in ridiculously crazy people are in charge of policy. And the minute they're let off the leash, then they get to do whatever they wanted. So that's where it started under Donald Trump's administration, which theoretically had shut down the Office of Diversity and Equality and what is
Equity.
it? Equity.
DEI.
And what's the I part?
Inclusion.
Inclusion. That's what
They're going to do accessibility now and change it and rearrange it to IDEA, so it's IDEA.
Oh, that sounds good. That's a good idea. These people start off with one thing under, let's say, a more restrictive situation, and then they end up in another where they're given hands-free to act as retarded as they want, and that ended up in vaccine mandates, which the people that I dealt with and you've met now, and we're in contact with the folks that actually got the vaccine mandates stalled in the federal government, which took place under Biden. All those things rolled out because of what was called the Safer Federal Workforce Task Force, which came about because of the retarded statements of Anthony Fauci, which we know because of his journal, which was leaked this week, that he knew was wrong. Mm-hmm. He objectively knew the things he was doing were inaccurate, they were incorrect, that he was lying to the American public, but he loved the press. He loved that they were fawning all over him. And so what is the consequence? And we just found out that he basically probably committed it's not perjury, but he basically was in contempt of Congress because he doesn't have the protection of the Fifth Amendment. So there was this big chatter about whether or not they were going to go prosecute him for contempt. And what did Donald Trump say about it? You made a reference to it a second ago.
Well, he's going to respect the auto pen pardon. Like the fake outrage that we see from the Republicans is nothing different than we saw with Lois Lerner when she was called to testify about the IRS going after these Tea Party groups. And they said, oh, she made her opening statement. She then can't refuse to testify. That's going to hold her in contempt. And then hashtag nothing happened, trademark.
Yeah, you can even refer it to DOJ, and DOJ's prosecutors refused to do anything about it because they all worked in this space. And so those people were the same ones that were crying with relief to get the Fauci ouchie, as said by some drunken wine mom who actually had a position of extreme authority in this country. Here's Donald Trump saying, you got to respect the auto pen. And this was also on the heels of yesterday. There was a sort of an announcement, whether it's true or not, it seems accurate, that he's basically announced he's going to blanket pardon his entire administration. And we've kind of already been hearing about this for a while. It's not like news, but in the context of he is going to respect the pardon in hopes that Democrats also respect his pardons for everybody. Because we're gonna bargain with the devil here, is what it sounds like. Here he was in the White House yesterday, 2 days ago.
Well, the only thing you can really think about is the auto pen, because the most powerful thing a president has, they say, is the power of pardon. So he was pardoned.
Who says
by
that, by the way?
Biden,
I thought it was the nukes.
and I respect that. I know how powerful it is. It's a very powerful. They say it's literally the most powerful thing a president has. Now,
Do they literally
whether
say
or
that?
not I sign my things directly, almost everything I sign
is
directly.
they, by the way?
You're witness to many of them. He signed very few. The only thing I know that he signed was Hunter Biden's pardon, but I'm not sure that he signed. He probably didn't sign this one. So I can't tell you what the law is. I've heard that you have to have a lot of proof. You need to have letters. You need to have all sorts of things that the person operating the auto pen has to know exactly what it's all about. He didn't know what it was about because I saw him testify. So maybe there's something on the auto pen. Other than that, the power of pardon is very powerful.
Look, there's a lot of things you need to
There's a lot
have,
of things
Steve.
you need to have, probable cause and beyond a reasonable doubt, that
You need
whole
a monkey in a
evidence
hat
thing.
with a bat. You need a 6'4" Impala.
Can we just zero in on one particular thing with Donald Trump that everybody likes to point out, who's a mega fan of the man? The Art of the Deal. He's the deal maker. That's who he represents himself to be. He had a book entirely ghostwritten that he slapped his name on and said that this is what I'm all about.
Yep.
And you want us to believe that he is embracing this deal where he's going to honor the auto pen pardons so he can then issue the same exact sort of preemptive pardons for his friends. And the hope will be that this deal is struck as, I've done this up ahead of time and given you this, Democrats. So you will therefore make the deal and honor my pardons for my people, knowing that the other side went after you and sent armed agents to root around your wife's underwear drawer. They'll probably honor your preemptive pardons.
I think
Well
they're going
done.
to be, they're going to be totally nice about it. This is an NPR article coming from December 30th of 2020. Even if it's bonkers, and this is why I think that people struggle right now. A poll finds many believe QAnon and other conspiracy theories. Now, you're going to be excited to find out what those conspiracy theories are because some of them are basically mainstream fact at this point. Okay. Here you go. Where we go one, we go all. There's a Q flag. That's good.
Well, and that was the Jacob Chansley point that he made that I wasn't even aware of. That shows you how much the media propagandas it. So
It's not called QAnon. That's not.
no, there's Q and then there's a non.
Yeah. The Anons are the people that were listening to the things and they were opining on it. And then there were the Q posts, which were supposedly coming from some insider. And again, we'll play the Q since it was brought up in a postcard that was sent to me. If you take the time to write me a postcard and request a video, I will play you that video. That is something I will, if I've played a video on the show before and you're taking the time to send me a postcard, I will actually I will acquiesce to your request because I don't know how else to get it.
Give me a
The guy
year's
who wrote me the
supply of
postcard-
almonds. I will thank you on the Kyle Seraphin show. That's
So
the kind
on
of way
the-
I operate.
Yeah. On the front. Okay. So on the front of the postcard, it said, it said like, you have to know, like, I'm kind of a retard. It was in like a speech bubble. It was really good. It was like all these stickers on it. It was great. I got it. My daughter was trying to read through. She was like in the car, like reading the postcard. One of them asked for the Q thing and said, can you send me the video? It's like, I don't know how else to send it to you. So this is the way we communicate. If you send me a postcard, I'll play it on the show. A significant number of Americans believe misinformation about the origins of the coronavirus. Hold on. Just so we're on the same page again, because I got away from it. Even if it's bonkers, a poll finds that many believe QAnon, but other conspiracy theories. And the leading other conspiracy theory is one about the origins of the coronavirus and the recent presidential election. This is in 2020. It's the end of the year. This is the day before New Year's Eve. 40% of respondents said they believe that the coronavirus was made in a lab in China, even though there's no evidence of this. Scientists say that it was transmitted to humans from another species. So this is how people lost their minds. News sources that had previously had some degree of reputability ran with that as the first two paragraphs. 40% of respondents believe coronavirus was made in a lab in China. That tells me that 60% of Americans are retarded enough to actually believe anything that the news media says.
Particularly
That also says that
government-funded news media like NPR.
that doesn't mean that 40% involves a bunch of people who are clear-headed truth thinkers. And this is the real problem. There's a ton of people that believe all kinds of illogical things, sometimes for good reasons. So you could be like, we could have a conversation and somebody would be like, yeah, I don't think we ever landed on the moon. And I'd be like, oh, interesting. I have friends that think that too. And they're like, yeah, because it's actually a superstructure that is an alien ship that was put into orbit by ancient humans 1,000 years ago. And you're like, 10,000? That's a long time. How do you know this stuff? And they're like, oh, it was foretold to me in this thing that I did, and I did some calculations. Okay, so you're like a crazy person. It's the same people that came in and that would tell me like, listen, I think I have burns on the bottom of my feet. And I would go, oh, what happened? And they're like, yeah, I have a radioactive implant and it's leaking. And I was like, oh, no kidding. When did the radioactive implant get put in? Like, what is it for? Because there are radioactive implants, for different cancers and stuff. And then they would go, well, I don't exactly know. And it wasn't with my permission. And then you're like, bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
You had me going because it was logical right up until it wasn't logical. And so 40% of Americans believing that the coronavirus was made in a lab, that seems scary low. And it doesn't mean that all those people are clear-headed thinkers, just for whatever it's worth. So this is the problem I think that we're in right now, is that this stuff broke people, and people are still recovering from it to the point where there are logical things being said to them all the time. And they are assessing whether or not they believe it based on whether they want to believe it, not based on whether there's evidence that makes any sense or whether they have a plausible counter-explanation. When your plausible counter-explanation, and I've got a fun one on the Charlie Kirk stuff, because I asked a guy, hey, lay me out make me understand. I'm not committed to anything. I just know that the government's case seems like the most likely because it's the most likely because they have all the answers for what they say happened. And then I listen to the people who think otherwise, and they seem absolutely retarded. And I've got some examples of this. And it's not for me to set them up and break them down. It's just find smarter people to listen to. If there's credible voices out there, please send them my way. The ones that are out there seem to be kooks. Steve, hold the thought for 1 second. If you guys are watching on Rumble, give us a like. Appreciate that. Same thing for YouTube. Give your comments. Agree, disagree. Did you know, were you part of the 40% that knew it was made in a lab, even though you were a kook in 2020? Knock yourself out. Put that below. You may hear an ad on the audio platforms like Apple and iHeartRadio right now. And it comes from the folks over at Spotify, KyleSeraphinShow.com. That's the easiest place to go find us over there. Check out our sponsors, links in the show descriptions. Steve, I'm gonna queue up the Q video. I'll cue the Q, I think. What I want to also tuck in here is a couple of other things. 1/3 of Americans believe that there was voter fraud that helped Joe Biden win. Despite the fact, and here's why people think things are discredited. Hey, do you want to raise money for NPR? Thanks, NPR. Despite the fact that courts, election officials, and the Justice Department found no evidence of widespread fraud. That's actually factually not true. They just didn't look for the widespread fraud.
Correct.
And they didn't accept the cases to proceed based on the way that they were filed, or maybe based on the fact that they were already coming to a pre-drawn conclusion. So you got some problems there, but people like Jennifer Moore were asked questions about, hey, why are we not looking into fraud in the 2020 election? There seems like an awful lot of, smoke. There's a lot of public reports of questions. There's these videos that we're all seeing online of strange things happening, people double feeding ballots, stuff coming out from underneath, chairs and tables. Like, are we looking into it? And their answer was basically shut up and color. And if you have questions about what this agency is about, then you really don't belong here. Where does that sound familiar there, Steve Friend?
Sounds like everything that we heard over the last, 4 years of being indefinitely suspended, wearing non-restrictive waistbands. Just bend the knee, do what you're told, just follow orders and be a good soldier. That's where we're at.
Yeah. And it seemed like it was a concentrated effort that came across. I feel like a lot of the stuff we deal with online is actually not real people. There's obviously real people that are dumb, and there's real people that are exploiting an opportunity for audience and attention, and there's obviously some money in it as well. But there's also a lot of this stuff that's not even real human beings. I see the same trend. Maybe you see this in your comments. My comments will be full of people who have an animal for a picture. It's usually like a pet or a cartoon animal. They will be an unverified account that's been opened up in the last 1 to 2 years. They will have some number of followers that is very similar to the number of things that they are following. There'll be a couple hundred here and a couple hundred there. And then they go out and they have very aggressive and angry talking points that are very accusatory and emotionally involved. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, you don't know me. Why are you mad?
And there's just been a study released this week that said that over half the traffic on the internet is not organic. It's not human, we'll say. It's either AI agents or bots entirely. So all these interactions that people are having, they're getting so angry about, are just with a computer that's driving them to do things that that a normal person wouldn't, or is at least poking them in their brain and keeping them up at night, and it's not even a real entity that's doing it. But it's also it shows you the strength of the propaganda. That let's combine the voter conspiracy theories with the coronavirus origin conspiracy theories per NPR in December of 2020. You were told through a PSYOP for the better part of the year in 2020 that it was not the biolab in the city where it started, but instead it was a bat that flew 600 miles and didn't land at any point and then barfed into a stew. And if you disagreed with that, then you're a conspiracy theorist. And then simultaneously...
That's so bad. What's crazy is that even guys on the left were looking at it and be like, are you serious? Like we had Jon Stewart's going out there and not buying into it.
Yes. And then simultaneously, we had the safest and most secure election. That was like trust the science. That was stay home, stay safe. It's the safest and most secure election. Now, I'm a pedantic jerk, which is why I say things like literally, because it doesn't mean literally. It, by definition, could not be the safest and most secure election the minute you allowed mail-in ballots. Because the safest and most securest way to have an election would be a person physically puts a ballot into a box and then one other person counts it. That involves two people. But if you're going to have mail-in ballots, it's going to be the person who votes, theoretically, and then the person who collects the vote, and then the person who drops it off at the mail, and then the mailman who picks it up and drops it off at a distribution center, and it gets dropped off at another vote counting center. And the more people you get involved, the less secure it can be. It might be secure. I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying that you can't call it the safest and most secure election, but that's the power of propaganda.
The poll results added mounting evidence that misinformation is gaining a foothold in American society and that conspiracy theories are going mainstream, especially during the coronavirus pandemic. And this is the problem. When the thing that they called a conspiracy theory is correct, it leads people to one of two things. Either, oh, I should question everything. And I think that's totally safe and normal. I actually think that's the safest thing you can do. The alternative is that whatever conspiracy theory I believe, it must be true because the other ones were as well. And there's a lot of people that got that lesson. And so this is the funniest piece. The people who are talking about it, they are giving evidence that they are the liars. It's increasingly people are willing to say and believe stuff that fits with their view of how the world should be, even if it doesn't have any base in reality or fact, which is what the people who told you that the coronavirus came from a bat that puked in a stew from 600 miles of flying. Which would be a long time to fly, and it could make you sick. I think you could overexert yourself and puke into a stew or whatever it was. Or that that a bat had sex with a pangolin, and then a pangolin, whatever the hell that thing.
I think it's a pangolin.
Pangolin. Some creature that doesn't exist in America was eaten because people in Asian countries are weirdos and they eat weird shit. If that were to be the case, then somehow that's where the thing came from, and it doesn't make any sense. And it didn't make any sense then. When you read it, you were like, guys, Occam's razor, which is the same razor I'm going to apply. Absent everything else, without aggressive evidence to show a really complicated train of thought. And you need that. Now, somebody was making the argument on our call-in show last night that the coronavirus was initially developed as and this is some arguments I'm also seeing, it was developed in Colorado. I'm sorry, not in Colorado, in North Carolina. And then it was transferred and they had some work that was being done on it in Montana. And then it was shipped off continent because it was not safe either, or they wanted to hide it, and they put it in China, and it was being worked in China by money that likely came from either the CIA or proxies of the CIA for investment, and that also came through the National Institute of Health and some of the other stuff that Fauci was involved in, and then they did their work. And when they did their work, then it leaked out, and maybe the idea was good that they were going to solve some problem that exists in bat populations, but in reality what it ended up doing is getting people in China really sick, and then they all spread around the world, and suddenly now people are coming down with the flu that they hadn't seen before. And it was novel, and it was, look, for those of us who had it, it was not very cool. It felt like differently than a lot of flus that I've had. Mm-hmm. I've never laid in a bed and shaken uncontrollably for over an hour. Not in my whole life. And I've been really sick. I mean, I've had fevers over 105 degrees before. I've been heat stroked out. I've had some pretty uncomfortable bacterial infections. I had cellulitis that went over something like 20% of my body, and I've had systemic bacterial infections and so on. I've never shaken and sweat a puddle in my bed, an actual puddle where you could be like, pfft, pfft.
Yeah, wring out your
water.
T-shirt. Yeah,
there's water underneath me in a pool in the memory foam. Like that's never happened to me in my whole life.
Yeah.
That being said, I survived crazily enough. I couldn't smell coffee for like 2 or 3 days, whatever the heck that was.
I tasted pennies for months. I got the Delta
But
variant.
you also only eat almonds, and some of them could have been copper laced.
Dang it. I didn't even think about that.
I'm just saying. Okay.
Listen, I mean, my experience was, I thought after having lived through Delta, which again was not fun, this was probably something this is pre-Maha, right? Before we were going to MAGA Doppler get healthy again. And that involved, I guess, putting Monsanto back into business and glyphosate into foods and government subsidizing Ozempic. But when I was in the throes of the Delta variant, I realized I couldn't breathe, but hell or high water, I'm going to get my dang run in today. So for the first 300 yards, I could see through a tunnel vision because I couldn't breathe. And then all of a sudden I could breathe. Amazing. And then I had no appetite. And all I thought was, hey, I breathe really well when I exercise and I don't want to eat. So this is probably something that the super morbidly obese American population could benefit from, like lots of exercising and not eating any sort of Cheetos. We should just go through herd immunity and we'll all be healthy.
Read the last paragraph there.
What this poll really illustrates to me is how willing people are to believe things that are ludicrous because it fits in with a worldview that they want to believe.
Isn't that incredible that the person who said that very likely believed exactly the narrative nonsense that was illogical as all hell?
Yes.
It was illogical that some sort of natural origin for a virus that was being concocted in a place where they were experimenting with said virus. But that was the claim. And so, again, this story was from 2020. This is a 6-year-old story. Here's some fun stuff. Identifying misinformation. They're gonna clue you in over at NPR, which gives out garbage for information. To the best of your knowledge, please indicate whether you believe each of these statements are true or false. All right? The majority of the protests that occurred this summer were violent. 47% said that was true. 38% said it wasn't true. This shows you the divide in the world. And by the way, I don't think the majority of them were violent. This is the problem.
With the majority, define violent. Yeah.
Okay. So
one person out of 60,000 is violent. Is the protest violent?
Right. So the question is, were the majority of the protesters violent? Probably not. Were the majority of the protests involved? Did they have some violence? The answer, I think, is yes. And so when you phrase a question like this, you get quote unquote incorrect statements. COVID-19 was created in a lab in China. 29% said they didn't know. I think that's okay. Actually, you get to come into our category too, because at some point you might have changed your mind. But 32% were convinced that it was not created in a lab in China, and they bought the narrative hook, line, and sinker. They're actually the minority there, I think. So when they highlighted that 40%, it could be a lot higher. It's just people who just said, well, I can't say it. How about this one? This is like people who listen to Alex Jones have heard this. A group of Satan-worshipping elites who run a child sex trafficking ring are trying to control politics and our media. Only 17% of people said that's true. and only 47% said that it wasn't true.
Yeah, and
which means that there's like a third of America is on the fence.
Leadership within the FBI at the co-deputy director and director level.
Yeah, those
we're
17%. They got in charge, and then they were like, "Oh, nothing happened." And so that 37% are all like, "Well, it definitely happened. It got to those guys. Look what they did. They started acting totally differently." Human beings don't play a significant role in climate change. 69% of people say that that's false. So only that you have 17% and 14% unsure on the climate change nonsense.
7 in 10 people think that there's actually a hole in the ozone layer with acid rain.
Despite the fact that we all lived through the 80s and 90s when hairspray was going to kill us all, and then it turned out that it actually did not. And the ozone layer, there were early internet meme movies.
I was guilt tripped for using an asthma inhaler because they said it was putting a hole in the ozone layer and I should die.
Mm-hmm. Several mass shootings in recent years were staged hoax. 12% of people believe that. 61% of people don't believe that. I think that's the wrong question, too. This is like the protesters versus the protests. This is a question of staged hoax? No. How about how many of those things were put up by some sort of nefarious actor, whether it was an overseas actor that was radicalizing people,
bots,
whether it was our actual intelligence community, whether it was some out of control operation from FBI, CIA, ATF, who all benefit from DHS, HSI, these groups that they benefit from bad things happening because they can go, there's a bad thing. We need a budget. Can you help us?
Yep. And the hubris attached to it. Well, this guy's within lungeable distance from us. So if he tries to do something, we'll surely be able to get to him. Meanwhile, he goes 130 yards from the would-be president of the United States and gets a successful headshot off.
So we're going to, you and I are supposed to do a panel discussion with Brandon Straka and some others, and I don't know who else is on the panels, but we're supposed to go up to Dallas next week.
Yes.
I always hate finding out that I'm traveling, and I hate that I agreed. I need to start just saying, no, I'm not interested. So Barack Obama was born in the United States. 60% of people believe that's true. That means 40% of people don't or are not sure. On autism, it's 50-50. Only 51% of people say that there's no evidence that vaccines cause autism.
The interesting categories there, the cross section of granola chewing libs and Maha, and then like really
this is the coalition.
Yeah, the coalition is really interesting for that one.
All right. So when you see that these divides existed, this is in 2020 in the midst of like a national lockdown, which, by the way, Donald Trump was president during that time. And it makes you realize that like these arguments are being made out. 9/11 was carried out by Al-Qaeda versus something else. Human beings did or did not land on the moon. 72% of people said they did. A third of people said no. Or I guess what, about a quarter of people, roughly a quarter, say they're not sure. So those things tend to have a little bit more wide reaching. It's not surprising that people are confused. It's not surprising that people don't have answers. And the reason why is because a really good lie, and I think Jim Erdman said this to Tucker Carlson, the good lies have a mixture of some truth in it. They sound plausible until further examination. So here you are. Anyway, this is the video as promised.
Hello, I'm from the U.S. government. Does something feel wrong in the world, but you
Sorry
can't
about
put your finger on it? Are you yearning to fight injustice and be part of something bigger? Do you do your own research? If so, you've been chosen to participate in our new PSYOP, QAnon. PSYOPs are usually carried out by our intelligence agencies in countries we've invaded or whose governments we've overthrown, in order to convince the local population that we're there to help them. QAnon is just like that, except the target isn't a foreign population. It's you. And the government we're planning to overthrow is... Follow the White Rabbit. At the heart of this PSYOP is Q, a government insider who will give you advance warning about major events, like the arrest of Hillary and deep state leaders, which never happened, and the end of the Democratic Party in 2018, who actually went on to win the House that year. And if years of fake predictions start to get you down, don't worry. Trust the plan. The best part of this PSYOP is you'll believe you're in a PSYOP, except that's not the PSYOP you're actually in, but the PSYOP where we let you think you're in a PSYOP. PSYOP Q-proof. Joining QAnon is easy because at its core there are some truths. Like the media really does lie to you. There really are powerful predators out there, and there really is a global pedophile ring that ritually abuses kids. But as you follow Q's droppings, you'll gradually LARP yourself deep into the rabbit's rectum, where you'll find others who yearn to fight injustice just like you. The 5G crew, the Plandemic crowd, the FEMA camps, and chemtrail folks too. All LARP together into a single LARP we can control. Where we LARP one, we LARP all. In exchange for all this entertainment and newfound sense of purpose, all we ask for in return is your help. No, you fucking idiots, not to arrest Hillary. Q has convinced patriots, even the guy who spent decades warning you about the police state and martial law. That martial law is now a good thing. What's that? When do we take down the deep state? Aw, honey. The guy who exposed the real deep state is being tortured by it right now. And where are you? Oh, that's right. Q told you to trust the plan and have a big circle jerk on Aiken. The great awakening. And that's the purpose of QAnon, to convince those who would normally be on the front line of fighting our shitfuckery to sit by and watch as we prosecute your truth tellers, purge your justice system, and rat fuck this election. QAnon. Nothing can stop what's coming, because you'll be sitting on your ass when it does.
It's not parody, it's prophecy.
It's done pretty well, and so it continues to hold value, and it stays in my hopper over here. This is a story that this front page today on the New York Times. The MAGA media machine is fracturing. A lot of these guys trafficked in this stuff, and now they are doing a 180. And I think that people are fatigued. I think that people can't handle this stuff anymore. You can't tell me that patriots are in control and trust the plan, and this is all 5D chess or whatever the hell the arguments were. I mean, I'm watching Alex. I went on Alex Jones the other day. Steve, I don't think you saw this, but I jumped on Alex Jones's show, and they didn't tell me what we were talking about, which is common. And I jump on with him, and it's his son who's supposed to be hosting. I didn't even know Alex was going to be there. Alex is in like a hotel room. And he was like, we need the 25th Amendment. We need to get rid of Trump by all means necessary. If we got to impeach him, we got to impeach him. Like, we got to go out there and do this. We got to do the War Powers Act. They're going to draft my son and put him into a military conflict. He's going to die for Iran and Israel. And I was like, what the fuck? I was just like watching with my eyes wide open. And then he's like, oh, top Seraphin guy, what do you got to say? And I was like, I don't know if we're going to have a draft, man. I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't sound right. And then I got 10 people sending me emails. They're like, oh my God, here's how you avoid the draft. This is the way we do it. Like, it's not going to be real. And so I started getting like all the people that watch Alex Jones going like, Seraphin, you got to get this to Alex Jones. I have the secret information to be able to hack the draft. Yeah. It's like, holy shit. Get out of the rabbit rectum, people. It's deep. Climb out. You got to go out first. You got to get all the way through the colon, all the way to the rectum, and then peel your way out of the sphincter and just get into reality. The air is fresh. The MAGA media machine is breaking because of that. And there's some really interesting stuff on here. You'll never believe who they analyzed.
Is it Candace Owens?
Yes. And?
Tucker Carlson?
Yeah. And?
I don't know. Who else? Ben Shapiro?
Yes. Keep going.
Mark
Come
Levin?
on. Yes.
Megyn Kelly.
They did.
Man, I'm 5 for 5 right now. I don't know if I want to risk it going ahead. Benny Johnson.
Yeah, you're winning. Let's go. Let's go, Steve. Okay, here's who they went after. This is the people they read. Mr. Johnson, that's Benny Johnson. Mr. Bongino, that's Daniel. Ms. Kelly, that's Megan.
How did I miss Bannon? Gosh dang it.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson, Steven Crowder, Walsh, Candace Owens, Bannon, Fuentes, Ben Shapiro, Tim Pool, and Charlie Kirk.
They analyzed Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is not alive anymore.
Whose accounts were taken over by the Turning Point staff.
Just the vultures picking at the parts of the
dead
dead body.
Ghouls that are feasting on his corpse, as we like to say here. Did you say anybody that was on here that I said I missaid you were correct about? I don't think so.
I didn't mention Daniel Bongino 292.
You did not.
No,
but that doesn't. I mean, you missed people.
Yeah,
but did you
missed
say
Crowder
anybody?
And Wells. No, I got them all.
Yeah, everybody you said was on here, right?
No, Levin.
Oh, Levin's not on here.
No,
that's okay. Well, everybody knows that Levin's not actually that important.
Yeah.
Including the New York Times. Okay, so only a few of these people saw their audiences grow since Mr. Trump's inauguration. Many have seen their viewerships decline. Some creators, like Ms. Owens, drew a new audience by posting to a broader range of topics. Experts point to a number of reasons for the change, including the difficulty in stoking political outrage while Republicans are in control of Washington. Shouldn't that also, when you're trying to tell me that we have to worry about the communists and your guys are in charge, I feel like I don't have to worry about the communists because your guys are in charge and they're not communists. So I'm told.
Yeah. I mean, they just
Unless they're not in charge.
Seem to get the votes necessary to secure the election. So it's probably bad news for the party that I'm not really part of.
I don't have an impression of all these people, but I should work on having it since that seems like the right thing. Okay. Content creators also are subject to the whims of algorithms like on X, which can change without explanation, and the impact of their reach. A fresh generation of influencers, some homosexual person called
Clavicular.
I know, I just don't want to pronounce it correctly. I'm going to do a Candace Owens. And then a YouTube creator called Osmond Gold, who I think is in Austin. Some of his stuff seemed like it's pretty well on.
Did he earn $40K and go to Austin?
I think he went to Austin. He started a side hustle, and he's earning $40K. He is speaking about politics alongside of other things like gaming and relationship. Okay. Fuentes has seen notable gains in 2025 and early 26, but is now trending down. It seems like the space is experiencing a drop off in views. Actually, Daniel Bongino cried about it being a slow news cycle. It's like, bitch, we started a freaking war. There's a new war that your guy kicked off that was not supposed to be a war. And you're saying that there's a slow news cycle? It's not slow, it turns out. Here's some live updates. We've got Iran bombing ships in the middle of the Strait of Hormuz. We've got drone attacks on United States bases where people from the United States are serving overseas. But it's a slow news cycle because it's the summer.
Slow news cycle for fake
propaganda.
Victories. Fake victories. Like America 250 Fest was awesome for him because he could just say like how amazing UFC fights were and having flyovers represented only the best in America. Like that's a good news cycle for him, even though like people celebrating July 4th isn't really newsworthy. It happens every single year, but it's an opportunity to wave the pom-poms and be, mega, MAGA Doppler excited about your slobbing the knob of the president.
Look at this guy.
Wow.
The Trump impersonator, he tweeted me and got a Daniel Bongino repost. Thanks, guys.
The guy he works for reposted him? Okay.
Yeah, the guy he works for. So here's what Daniel Bongino explained his New York Times bit. Despite a break for public service for 292 days, a slow news season, slow fluff season, summer vacation season. This is a lot of excuses for somebody, and a slew of new political content. What does that even mean?
That means that you shouldn't be a slow news cycle then, Daniel.
Wait a minute. Yeah, well, I think the slew of new political content means competition. We're still grateful to our viewers and our listeners for kicking ass and supporting the show. You're the best in the business. And I love nothing more than watching the doomers seethe. They like seeing that, I guess.
He doesn't see it, though, because he just blocks everybody.
But here's the deal. LFG, says the Bongino fart huffing extraordinaire.
Profound.
Haters have the sads. Nobody cares what these guys are up to. Let me get back to I want to get to John Nance one because it's fun too. God. Since they're showing me, I think it's fair to show. Oops. go away, traitor. Where's Nance? Oh, maybe I have Nance blocked. Whatever. Long and short of it is, it's interesting that the New York Times is pointing out that basically there's a decline in engagement because I think people are burned out. I think people have had all that they can handle. A representative from Mr. Crowder said his total monthly views had increased about 10 million since January of 2024. Candace Owens went on maternity leave and had vacations, causing views to... Everybody's got an excuse. Why? Why don't you just say, yeah, the audiences are less connected? And then a shift occurred in Mr. Kirk's assassination when a rift between right-wing creators erupted, seemed to fracture their audiences. What it did is it built up some people that were spewing out a bunch of nonsense. I actually grabbed the most recent filing in the Charlie Kirk prosecution. Have you seen it?
No, I have specifically muted all terms. So
I'm gonna bring you in.
Fresh for you.
So Candace Owens saw her podcast audience and YouTube surge amid controversy. This is what they accused me of in Kash Patel's girlfriend's lawsuit, that I feed on conspiracies or that I feed on controversy. I don't think that's true about what we do here. Stoked controversial theory or conspiracy theories before and since, including falsehoods about the sex of Bridget McCrone.
Okay, do you remember that whole thing where she said that it was within her ability to stop the fighting in Russia and Ukraine?
Right.
She just came off of saying that the president of France's wife is a dude and she didn't do it?
Right. She was going to hold strong. Candace Owens could have stopped the conflict in Ukraine if she just would lie about Bridget McCrone being a man. That was the claim. That's a bold-ass claim.
I mean, look, she's got...
And Donald Trump called her up and pleaded with her to just help stop the conflict over there.
Yes.
That was one of them. She also said that there were going to be French Foreign Legion assassins that were going to come kill her. Yes?
Yeah, I think she's.
There was a hit out on her. There was a hit out on her.
Is she like Vladimir
kind of like
Zelensky
had a hit.
Yeah.
There was a hit on Zelensky too.
Where's
Do you remember that?
OD drab sweatshirt? Like that. That's lacking.
She should start wearing one of those.
She
okay,
could probably sell
expanded her
Candace
reach.
Owens OD drab merch.
Ms. McCrone sued Ms. Owens for defamation. The case is continuing. It might be a conspiracy to thumb, but it's not to me, said Ms. Owens in an interview. I think I do a very good job of being thorough in what I present to people. We spend a lot of time and research, hours and hours on research, so I would disagree with that assessment. All right.
As I am a person who does believe that the microphone exploded on him. And now that I have fully rinsed out any chance that the person on Losey shot Charlie in his neck and that this bullet ricocheted downward and he somehow had this Superman steel neck because he ate lettuce and liked salad, I'm looking for a more reasonable explanation. And it is, in my estimation, a way more reasonable explanation that there were decoys, multiple decoys, people that were told to capture those decoys on the roof who was just tasked with really running so that they could say, oh, that's where it happened from. It happened from a Losey Center. I don't think it did. I think that military man was tasked with being an acrobat. And thinking that a shot went off from here, if that was just maybe like decoy number 2, and actually Charlie was shot from beneath him, which then could maybe explain why there was no exit wound. Maybe everyone's looking up when we should be looking below, right? Maybe we should be looking below. People are doing very, what I would say, credible videos. People that certainly have the credibility are ballistics experts that are saying that what we see in the front is an exit wound, not an entry wound. Theory that is being floated that Charlie was shot from the back. And I'm telling you this 100%. Charlie Kirk was shot from the front, and at least a fragment of the bullet was recovered from his neck. What I can state rather unequivocally is that there is now more evidence, more evidentiary support that Charlie may have been killed by a rigged explosive device that was on him I never dismissed the exploding mic theory. I was always clear to my team that I thought there was something there. And then my producer has a note that there are a lot of comments asking about the microphone theory. Here's what I will say about that. When I looked at image from the side, the microphone is still on him afterwards. So like when you see it from on, it looks like it kind of disappears, but then it kind of shifts. When you look at the perspective slightly to the left, you see that it actually stays on him and it's just in the fold. I would imagine if anything did sling into him with that kind of a force, it would fall off. And I can tell you it doesn't fall off. Yeah, I never changed my mind. Maybe we should be looking below. Charlie was shot from the back. Charlie Kirk was shot from the front. Charlie may have been killed by a rigged explosive device that was on him.
Dude, what the fuck? What is that? Like, how do you do that? And how do people watch and go like, holy shit, she's onto it? By the way, I saw this the other day. I've never seen this picture before. Have you seen this one?
No.
This was introduced in the preliminary hearing. This is a picture of the so-called black towel, which looks kind of like what would you say, like a black towel?
Yes.
Yeah, it looks like a black towel.
Accurate.
And it's the black towel with the rifle sitting on the evidence box.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Which is normal for evidence collection.
Now, let me ask you a question. How many guns do you think you've picked up on scene?
Well, I was part of the Whitmer case, so it's probably skewed more heavily than most agents.
Did you guys pick up a bunch of guns on
Yeah,
witness?
we went to the one house and I had to be there while they seized like hundreds of guns.
And they needed to seize guns because, and they need FBI SWAT to do that. There's like
we had to sit there and watch it be done.
You were a local cop. Were there protocols for collecting a weapon for evidence when you were a local? And you've seen other like tribal cops and stuff do the same thing, yes?
Sure.
Okay,
yes.
what does that look like? I'm not leading you at all. I just want to know what the answer. Like, what does it look like to collect a weapon on a scene?
Well, you have to render the weapon safe. You can't send a loaded gun to evidence. So you have to make sure that's why the SWAT guys were there to make sure that it was properly downloaded. And then you would throw the zip tie through the barrel of the gun so a round couldn't accidentally find itself down the barrel and fire while it's somehow being transmitted from one location to another. Mm-hmm. And there's little punctures on the boxes so you can use as many zip ties as necessary to get this thing down there. And you would box it up, seal it, put the tape, sign off on it, and you're good to go on to the next one.
Okay. Have you ever seen anyone just pick up a gun and then just carry it off a scene? To their
not
car?
they're collecting evidence.
No, evidence. Would they ever collect evidence and just like carry it out?
No. It would be because you have to actually memorialize where it was, take photographs of where it was, document that, and document who actually picked it up. And they're very specific in everything related to evidence to make sure that there's a chain of custody established, which is also going to be pretty problematic when the FBI director himself says, well, I walked the crime scene. Well, sir, are you in the crime scene log? Because if you're not, then you've got some problems there for the prosecution.
I think a huge chunk of the issues that people see is that there was this ongoing and sort of ridiculous nature of Daniel Bongino and Kash Patel inserting themselves. Actually, Spencer Cox, the governor of Utah, inserted himself as well. Yeah. And so these guys made summaries of things that they thought were necessary, and nobody needed that. Like it was talking that was being done, but there was no upside to it. There was only downside. Yeah. Now, Spencer Cox didn't seem like he was emotionally invested because he didn't say like Charlie Kirk was my friend, and then as friend
of Charlie Kirk, him and
he's
Joe
the one
Kent,
guy.
apparently.
Yeah, he's the only guy that didn't get up there and say like I'm buddies with this guy, because immediately after you do that, you are now required to recuse yourself.
Yes,
and you shouldn't even be talking about it.
And on the subject of buddies with the guy, I know the vultures that took over the Charlie Kirk show are pretty deplorable human beings, but
for sure,
Candace Owens purports to have been friends with Charlie Kirk, and she has monetized his assassination for the better part of a year. Like,
I don't think it's about money. I said this last night.
I mean, it's about attention. Whatever it is, she's getting something out of it. You and I are friends. If it's one way or the other, if one of us winds up in a ditch somewhere, the other guy knows that we've got a couple of responsibilities. Make sure that his family is taken care of, and then step away, because you're going to have to allow the professionals. Actually, in my case, if I wind up in a ditch somewhere, you're going to have to find my training agent from the FBI and get him tasked to investigate it, because that's the most competent investigator possible. But, again, allow the right people to do their job. But don't go on your podcast and every single day break down and watch the video over and over again of your friend being executed. Like, that's really dark.
I am speculating here as somebody who has no training in this at all, but I've lived around people. It looks like somebody processing grief. And so whether that's because of friendship or because of a silent love affair that didn't capitalize out, like if you're so fixated on the widow, and I don't think I don't like Erica Kirk. Here's the funny thing. I don't like anybody in this. I don't like any of the people in there. I didn't know Charlie Kirk. I thought some of his choices were pretty suspect. He was very close to people like James O'Keefe, who I thought was a piece of shit as a human being, still is a piece of shit, hangs out with Scott Pressler and just did a sailboat tour, 2 straight men hanging out together on a sailboat with a video crew. No big deal. Yeah. And could happen to anybody. Watching, I don't have a dog in the fight. I think the guys who are doing the show under the guy's name, I think they're ghouls. I think they're feasting on the corpse of the man that's dead, who I didn't have any personal connection to. So I can see that somebody killing a father is horrific and disgusting, and it actually makes me want to puke when I see it over and over again. And I've seen people die. I've had people die in my hands. It happens. It's not great, but the morbid sort of fixation on it. And so anyway, so that was part of the deal. That was like some of her crazy theories, and they are crazy theories for whatever it's worth, people. Those are as crazy as they get. I've got, and it goes to this. Okay, Steve, here's what it goes to. Let me put it back up on the screen. 40% of people believe the baseless conspiracy that the coronavirus was created in a lab.
No
so
editorializing at all.
The conspiracy people can be right.
Yes.
No question about it. And so and I don't have any problem with people asking questions. What I have a problem with is people demanding something that they have no right to. And this is the thing that I've been seeing over and over. This is like the minute that I brought Bobby Sauce on, and I brought Bobby Sauce on out of straight morbid curiosity, is like, what am I missing here? Let me ask somebody that I like. He didn't convince me of anything. I think he's a nice guy. He had no argument. I need an organized argument. I need you to tell me you think it was an exploding microphone. I need you to tell me that there was multiple patsies and all of this. And the more you tell me, if you can't prove it, it just is like, what are you talking about, dude? How about we wait until the actual findings from the people who are tasked with doing this, who, by the way, the people in the Utah Bureau of Investigation, what do they have to do with politics necessarily?
Nothing at all. What do
the people in the prosecutor's office in Utah County have to do with anything?
Nothing.
How about the FBI agents in Salt Lake? Do you know any of them that are decent out there?
Salt Lake, yes, one, and decent. Yeah,
I know several.
grinder.
I know less than 5, but I know more than 2 people that are really, really decent agents out there that have high competency. And they were involved in this. I think everybody was. I think everybody got tasked out to do something, whether it was evidence response team or interviews or whatever. So you look at that and I go, okay. I listened to all this information. You have no ability to subpoena records. So you can't get information that you need. You have no ability to seize evidence. You have no ability to access the evidence that has been seized or do your own forensics on it. So you're just taking whatever the court says. You have no ability to interview witnesses in a meaningful way, and you certainly can't hit them with penalty of perjury the way the FBI did. And then your information that you come up with is not going to be presented in court. So this is a circle jerk LARP. This is the Q LARP. As far as I can tell, people who are solving problems that they are not tasked with solving, they have no ability to actually get to the bottom of. And whenever I push these people long enough, they'll go, well, we believe law enforcement is all lying to us. And I go, well, who's going to get the answer? And they go, well, it's not our job to get the answer. That's what law enforcement's job is. It's like, did your head just explode? That was the force of your 2 ideas running into each other at full speed. The people who are in on it are also the people who are tasked with getting the answer. So one of 2 things are true. Either there is no answer that you're ever going to get, and you accept that, or you're just going to sit out here and you're going to huff farts to each other and tell each other how amazing they are. I'm going to show you a new, quote unquote, piece of evidence as determined by the online retards. And there's no other way to call these people. This guy is one of the dumbest. He posted this video yesterday and said that this is a rifle that was found on the scene of Charlie Kirk's assassination.
Okay.
I went through the whole thing of you seizing hundreds of guns. So you tell me if this is a seized gun for evidence. Okay.
Send it.
I'm not sure it's even a gun. If it is a gun, I'm not sure it's a real gun because the guy's carrying it with 2 fingers. So that's the first part of it. And then I'm going to add to the fact that this is the day after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. There was a stable, established crime scene, and they were exploiting the crime scene as best they could. So they were collecting water bottles and any sort of evidence. They were doing all the things they do in the ERT process. And none of those people had anything to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination, as far as anybody can tell. So here is this new evidence of a new weapon system. And by the way, the guy that is being let out in handcuffs was arrested for breaking into the scene. His phone was seized and it had selfies of him trying to get himself pictures in the scene to memorialize the event or something. He was a kook and he was charged with this. Okay. So it's very simple. You tell me if this is seized evidence of a rifle walking through, and I'm going to put you on the screen here. Do you see the rifle? Maybe.
From the FAR agent who's got it there?
Yeah, FAR agent, or I think it's a state guy because they're wearing. I don't think those are FBI. I could be wrong. Okay. You ever carried a rifle like that, Alpha Scene?
Like it's a dead iguana? No.
It does look like a dead iguana.
Like you're just holding the tail, right?
I don't know what he's doing.
Is it claimed that that's like some sort of folding stock AR?
That's the claim.
Wow.
I have a folding stock AR. He claims that it's either a SIG MCX. I'm going to turn the volume down on this because there's literally no value in this clip volume. So he claims it's either a folding SIG MCX, a SIG MCX Virtus, a SIG Spear LT. He missed the other ones it could have been because it could be a SIG MPX. I own all those, by the way. I literally own all of those. He's like, it could be in 5.56 or 300 Blackout, which are both calibers consistent with the shot that took place in Charlie Kirk's neck. So he's apparently not in the exploding microphone theory. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing that's really interesting about that. And I'm going to replay it. The thing that's really interesting to me, I think, is that, number one, look how he's carrying it. Mm-hmm. Dude, he's carrying it with like 2 fingers.
Yeah, with one
by
hand.
The barrel.
And that's not as... I mean, if it's a long gun especially, you would not be holding it that way for just
with
safety.
Your bare hands?
Yeah.
There's nobody that's doing this on camera. And it's like, well, they were trying to hide it. It's like they're hiding it in front of a person who's standing there going, with their phone
camera,
like it's hard.
Yeah, in plain sight. That's how you know. That's how you know they're just so diabolical.
There's no chance that you can look at this stuff and go, well, they're trying to hide it. And so you have to make all these illogical leaps on that. And that weapon system weighs probably somewhere between, I don't know, 6 and 9 pounds if it's what he says it is. I have one. It's sitting right on the counter. By the way, he missed out another caliber, 7.62 by 39, because it comes in the Soviet caliber. And so you're not carrying that with 2 fingers. I got pretty strong hands. I got decent grip strength.
Yeah.
I have equal grip strength, I would say, to whatever that man is, unless he's a world-class strength athlete that's doing like
and even then, it's uncomfortable to hold that level of weight in that position.
And nobody does that. So somebody called it the dead chicken carry or the rubber chicken carry.
Yeah.
It's not how you would carry anything. So when someone sees this, they're like, look, they're hiding a weapon system, and they've got this guy. Like, this guy's a kook. He's in a lab coat. Mm-hmm. And he was sneaking, and when he told the cops what he was doing, he said, I was running in the shadows to stay out of the crime scene so that nobody could see me. That's not a sane person.
Broad
but those
daylight,
people,
sure, yeah.
We would call them a looky-loo. I don't know if you guys had names for like people who try to get into the crime scene.
Yeah, well, I mean, now that there's so much value with all the content creation out there, he might have been just trying to get some pictures out there so he can get some likes online.
Somebody said he lifts mops like Anatoly. I love Anatoly. I don't know if you've ever seen the Anatoly clips, but he's this character created by this Ukrainian powerlifter stud who's a freak.
One-arm deadlifts past all these yoked dudes. Yeah,
the dude is freakishly strong. He's like a cyborg. But anyway, and he has like a 70-something pound mop that he pushes around like it's nothing, and then he hands it to people and goes,
people and their arms fall down.
Imagine someone handing you what looks like it should weigh something like 19 ounces, and then it like ends up weighing like 70 pounds. It's like, rah! Just drops you. Yeah. There are people out there that are uber strong and crazy. That cop is unlikely to have been them. And even if he wasn't like randomly 2-fingering a piece of evidence with bare hands. It's completely illogical. Mm-hmm. It makes zero sense whatsoever. But anyway, this is the kind of stuff that people are out there running around with. And I think I've got another one here that's also really fun. Okay, so this guy reached out to me, and I'm tempted. I'll let the audience, in fact, give me a comment if you guys want me to have this guy, Blake Bednarz. I'm vaguely aware of who he is, but not really. I don't really know who he is. So he says, Kyle, if you give me 10 minutes, I'll show you how Charlie was killed and how they did it. I dare you to have me on your show. I really hate it when someone says that. Who are you? He says, I'm just a normie from Lubbock. That's not a good start. But he's not bought off, Steve. So he's not been bought off. I'm the citizen they didn't account for. The kink in the matrix. What do you call that? Well, diagnose for me.
Emotionally disturbed person who says their foot is on fire.
And he's with a voice, thanks to social media, that doesn't get along with the sloppers or the Cantifa. Is Cantifa the Candace people?
This is the people that come to me and say that they need me to elevate their whistleblowing that they've been doing for 30 years. And I look down and say, I'm unemployed. Why do you think that I'm good at this?
Why do they think you're good at this? All right, here we go. Okay, so then he posts a video that's an hour long with Baron Coleman, and I'm not watching that, so no thanks. I was like, just summarize the bullet points for me.
I thought it was 10 minutes, and he gave you an hour-long video?
Listen, people do this to me every time, so I'm just polite until there's, I'm just polite. And to his credit, he actually answered my question. I said, this should be easy to summarize. Just give me in bullet points the who, what, when, where, why, and how, and I'll assume that you have the evidence to back it up. Let's go. Are you ready? Because he did it.
All right.
I'm going to read you. Actually, you read to me.
Need you to increase it. I'm 40.
You're 40?
Yeah.
How's that work for you?
There you go.
Bro, I got you.
All right. Brian Harpole or Harpoli?
I don't know.
wore the trigger to detonate the charge under his shirt. He is on 4K video gripping and squeezing under his shirt with his arms crossed at the moment of detonation, September 10th. UVU, don't know why. Charlie's pendant was swapped out with a custom replica cross that housed a micro nitrocarbon shaped charge where micrograms of HEDMs were embedded with a exploding bridge wire. Think Aura Ring. The chain failed at the detonation because the clasp worked. It's way down on the pendant, causing the chain to fly backwards off Charlie. This made the weapon unstable, which yielded a neck wound instead of a chest wound. No flash, no char, no smoke. This wasn't PETN.
Yeah, Petin.
Petin.
Petin is the material that is used in like a hand grenade. So if you've ever seen sort of what looks like a polymer shell or kind of like a metallic shell, that's what Petin is.
Okay. This compound was a nitrocarbon build without hydrogen and a perfect oxygen balance. It's all on video, every bit of it, and I can even show you exactly how everyone else from the 10th at UVU is involved too.
So you've done some murder investigations. You've done a bunch of death investigations.
Yes.
I've done a couple. How does that one hit you?
It hits me as the guy who used to walk up to our office like once a month wearing a cowboy hat with the conspiracy theories that we had his picture on the wall saying like, don't answer if he knocks. Or, you know, the woman that walked in, because this is when I was a brand new agent and I got totally taken by the U.S. Marshals. She'd gone to the Marshals and they said, oh, you need to go talk to the FBI. And then they sat back and chuckled. And a brand
this is like
new...
when someone comes to us with crazy stuff and we say, you need to talk to our friend John Nance.
Boot agent, walk in. She says, I got outlaw motorcycle gang stuff. I talked to her for an hour, completely reasonable. And she goes, I have it on my phone. And I said, all right, let me see your phone. She pulls it out and it's wrapped in tinfoil. And I'm like, son of a...
Her phone was wrapped in foil?
Yes.
Gotcha,
yes,
bitch.
Yes.
They freaking got you. She should have had a silent... If she pulled it out of a silent bag, what would you think?
Oh, I'd give her some more bona fides at that point. I'd be willing to
If you pull
hear her
up,
out.
this is why you don't do your things in tinfoil, people. If you pull up with one of these guys, you look more legit to the FBI.
Yes, if you're
even
crazy, invest. You'll get at least another 45 minutes out of the agent.
Yeah, you'll have all the attention that you were looking for. Give me 2 seconds here. All right, folks, you're going to have an opportunity to write a comment on there. If you're on Rumble or YouTube, leave us a comment. Tell me if you want to hear from Blake on here. I'm willing to have him on. I actually am. I don't really mind. I'm not emotionally committed to whatever it is. I just don't, like, by default, that sounds crazy to me. Maybe it sounds sane to you. So let me know. Let me know about the iguanas, too. If you think that there's a technique that I'm not familiar with when seizing rifle evidence, carrying it as though it were a dead iguana or rubber chicken, put that in the comments below. You may hear an ad on the audio platforms right now. You can find the audio and the video combined if you were hearing and you wanted to see it as well. And that's at KyleSeraphinShow.com. That'll get you over to our Spotify channel. What does the chat say about, should we have this guy? Do we want to know what this guy thinks? Will it be entertaining if he's wrong? Will it be informative if he's right to bring the guy on? Guys, I'll watch the chat for a few seconds here while we get this going. But that was one of the claims. Okay. Right. So I got that. And then of course you got people that are the sarcastic types. This is Nate Livingstone. I think he's in Australia. I could be wrong. He says, why are people so confused about Candace Owens' theory? Clearly, Tyler Robinson was radicalized as part of an MK Ultra program, but he wasn't the killer. He wasn't even on the campus. He's actually a patsy that's being set up. There were a bunch of Tyler Robinson lookalikes dressed in maroon to make it appear that Robinson was there. The person Candace Owens showed in the footage on the roof is actually meant to appear to be Robinson, but we can obviously tell that they're clearly military trained. On top of that, they're not even the killer, because we all know Charlie Kirk wasn't even shot by anybody on the roof, but in fact was killed by an exploding microphone. Charlie Kirk was clearly killed because he was abandoning his support for Israel, attempting to stop the war in Iran, but also to stop Candace Owens' investigation into Bridget McCrone, because he at the time was a time traveler. Candace has also masterfully proven this is a theory ranging from France to Egypt to Israel to the United States military to the Utah State Police to the coroner's office to TPUSA and then to Tyler Robinson's own lover, Lance Twiggs. But all of these people are satanic Freemasons. They wouldn't have gotten away with it if they hadn't somehow and unnecessarily placed the wrong bullet fragment in Charlie Kirk, if the ATF hadn't discovered the bullet fragment didn't match Robinson's gun, if the prosecutor, who's also in on the conspiracy, hadn't accidentally done their job, if the son of the Zodiac killer hadn't spotted Erica Kirk and Brian Harpole at Fort Huachuca, which apparently some people have a hard time pronouncing that. I think that's how you say it. Military base on the day before, and if Tyler Robinson's lookalike on the roof had crawled like a regular 20-something person instead of clearly being a super soldier. But it's all coming down like a house of cards, and I keep seeing this expression, go Max. I don't know. That's a good one. Anyway, so I was like, I think I'm 75% caught up. I have some more reading to do here. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. I mean, I am kind of trying to be a jerk, but it's like, guys, are any of you capable of assessing whether any of those claims are even true? And if the answer is no, I just feel really strongly like what's being told to us is a lie. That's fine. Do you even know what the real story is? I had somebody go at me yesterday and they're like, you're backing the story that the feds told. Steve, tell me how many feds testified in Charlie Kirk's preliminary hearing. Just guess how many testified on behalf of the prosecution.
Is it the smallest number?
It's the smallest number.
0.
Yeah, 0. No feds testified on behalf of the prosecution at the preliminary hearing.
Which I think lends
Guess
itself
how many
to
testified on behalf of the defense?
0.
3.
3?
3 were called in as defense witnesses to discredit the DNA information that they provided to the state police. And all of them came out looking like there was no argument because they were just regular forensic examiners in the DNA lab from the FBI.
All right, so they're just lab techs. It doesn't.
Their
their W-2 comes from the FBI, but
correct.
Okay.
The only they probably work at Quantico. The only feds who have been involved in the public stuff so far in that 5-day preliminary hearing establishing probable cause, which is a low bar, were brought in by the defense. That's the only quote unquote Fed narrative. But what people have done is they've taken the Kash Patel statements, the Daniel Bongino statements, the Hannity interviews, Spencer Cox, who had nothing to do with any of this. None of these people are investigators.
Correct.
Will you confirm that they are not investigating?
Yes. If you're the head of a bureaucratic agency, you are not actually doing the operational
What do you think the odds are that a local sheriff is involved physically in investigating things on, let's say, a high-profile murder in their area? Let's say Samantha Guthrie.
The lowest number, 0.
Is it weird that I call it a murder? Is it fair?
I mean, at least it's a silver alert.
It's a silver alert. Yeah, there's a missing lady, and she's probably dead, right?
Yeah. I think that's.
Is that her name? She's Nancy Guthrie. Dude, I don't know who it is. Nancy Guthrie is the dead one.
She had medical reasons that would indicate that she's not with us anymore.
That checks. The men who are detained in the Guthrie investigation file a notice of claim against the Pima County Sheriff. He's the executive that's in charge of the agency, but he would have had maybe he had policy decisions, but he's not the one who's out there.
But it's like suing the attorney general for wrongful termination if you're an FBI agent.
I am suing the attorney general. I am currently suing whoever the hell the attorney general is. And also I think the FBI director is named in their private capacity or their public capacity as an FBI director. So I think our lawsuit is against Patel and ostensibly Todd Blanche as the acting attorney general. By the way, you want evidence that that we are not watching our president run things?
Sure. I mean, other than what we always have every day.
Can you read that with your old eyes?
Trump says he may pull Todd Blanche's nomination until Cornyn and Tillis leave office. So the two lame ducks are able to stop this president who's in charge of their party from getting his attorney general pick across the finish line.
Here's the New York Times version of it.
Defying Trump, Cornyn uses his lame duck power. It's power now. Losing a primary makes you more powerful. Strike me down now, Darth, and I become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Okay, unrelated to anything, the funniest bit of this article is look at the background of this picture. What's going on here? Hold on, look at this lady. What is she doing? There's like this redheaded lady who's like a staffer who's coming in and she's like,
she looks like she's plotting something evil.
She looks like she might have an exploding microphone in her hand that she's smuggling in through the metal detectors.
John Cornyn needs some posture work. He's got the chest landslide and some.
Everything about John Cornyn is awful. The funny thing is that you can't tell me that Patriots are in charge when the article is a guy who lost his primary, who nobody in Texas is excited about, is holding up the nomination of an attorney general.
Is it possible that?
And I don't even care one way or another who it is, by the way.
Is it possible that the term patriot is like the term rhino? Like we have the new understanding what rhino is. That's if you have a conservative worldview and you have nowhere else to go, like Richard Gere and an officer and a gentleman, you have to vote Republican. You're the rhino and a patriot, which makes my skin crawl at this point. It's almost on par with hearing the N-word, because it's so fake and gay, but the Patriots are in charge. Oh, so it's just the people that want to see the status quo, the Jim would spell with the G Jordans who are heading things and holding hearings and writing strongly worded letters and appearing with Hannity and then tweeting about it. Like they're in charge. The Patriots are in charge.
The Patriots are in charge and the Anons are investigating. I had a guy that had an Anon account with a fake picture and a fake name and an unverified account tell me that he had 10 times more law enforcement experience than I did.
Oh, okay. So 60 years?
But based on his speech pattern, he's probably in his 30s. Oh. And when it came out, his experience was he was an enlisted member of the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, Air Force OSI. You ever worked with OSI?
No, only Army CID.
Okay. When I worked with OSI, I came in and then they said, "What do we do, sir?" Because even the guys that were the 1811s, they were at OSI. And so they had some interesting stuff they did. But everybody that worked at OSI that had the ability, I ended up meeting them at the FBI. And by the way, they were the most dog shit people I ever met. The people that were enlisted were pretty cool. Like they were mostly cool guys. But to say that they were like investigators is pretty silly. And whenever there was a serious crime, they had to call who? Someone like you or me. Because if there's actually a homicide on a base like that, we ended up usually dealing with it. And it's not that common, it turns out. But like, they could handle domestic disputes and stuff like that. But if it came down to like a kidnapping or like other like federal crime that spilled over the base, when we had somebody who was an Afghan, whatever, parolee that had like tuned up some lady, it was us that got called in to do it. If
multiple interviews, you're not making a probable cause arrest. It's going to involve some
serious bodily injury, sexual assault, things like this, like that were like pretty aggressive, especially if it involved somebody that was not a member of the military, then we ended up getting called. So anyway, I'm not mad at the guy. I just thought it was really funny. He had 60 years as an enlisted guy in Air Force OSI, according to his claims. Here's what investigations look like, and they look like very unimpressive. This is the FBI getting called out by Axios. This is one of their lead stories today, and I was kind of curious about it. The story is that the FBI is now getting access to voter IP information if somebody registers to vote online, and there's a belief that there may be a fraudulent voting system being used. The FBI can pull down IP addresses now, which they've never done before, which obviously is being collected. I mean, this is information the state obviously has. So this is what the story is. They're very concerned that it's a new tactic to isolate cases of alleged voter fraud, digging into IP addresses for those who went online to register to vote. The idea being that maybe somebody was eligible to vote and didn't register, and so a foreign nation or a foreign power or even the wrong person registered that person to vote and then took control of their voting capabilities. That would be one way that you could have voter fraud. So the FBI is looking into that. Do you know who can't look into that though, Steve?
Local authorities?
Regular dudes, just dudes on the internet can't pull your IP address from the state.
Oh, you mean the people who feel entitled to all the information, and the very reality that they don't get it immediately indicates that it's a giant Fed op? And even if the Feds turned over everything, if it didn't indicate that there was any sort of cover-up, that would just be further proof that it's a cover-up?
This is more of my sort of like, just like generally speaking, Donald Trump's in charge. He's going to make America affordable again. That was promise number 3. Mortgage rates just hit the highest level in a year.
As did grocery prices.
He can't get out of the war. So anyway, I saw these articles and they're kind of like less interesting than sort of the meta conversation that people are deeply, deeply concerned that they are involved in the investigation of something they cannot investigate. Mm-hmm. Just objectively. And when you ask them, you pen them down. You're like, hey, what do you think that you're going to do? Like, who owes you this explanation? And they're like, well, I'm not satisfied that the burden of proof has not been met yet. It's like, dear Lord,
you're not on the jury.
Look, even our chat is doing it right now. And just so you guys know, when I read you guys through this, like, you immediately look like a retard to me. It sounds retarded. You're attacking, like, why did they dig up the crime scene? I want somebody in the chat that thinks that the FBI dug up a crime scene at Charlie Kirk's assassination. Mm-hmm. Tell me when that happened. Just put it in the chat. I'll come back to it. I'll put you on the screen in a moment. Let me know when you think
when there's a crime that you put that tape around it and the crime scene remains forever?
That's the question that I was going to bring up to you. What's the longest you've ever held a crime scene, do you think?
That's a good question, because I mean, ones that are like an officer involved shooting or something like that. I mean, that could be like 12, 24 hours, something like that.
For sure. Yep. Do you know how long the FBI held the crime scene, or that the general authorities in the Charlie Kirk case held the crime scene?
Probably a matter of days, like they did for Nancy Guthrie, right?
It was for 4 days.
Okay. Yeah.
And things were dug up on the 5th day after they released it.
Well, after they've collected everything they're going to.
So 5 days after they got everything they wanted to get, and they exploited the living hell out of it, and they sent in national evidence teams. We even heard the dummy Kash Patel talking about how they were upcycling and they were surging. They were surging and cycling resources. After 5 days of holding on to a scene, they let go of it, and then you can do anything you want afterwards.
Like, because it's on a university campus, and you can't just shut it down forever.
Let me give people another example. Imagine that there was a shooting that took place in your home, and it was a contentious shooting. And the person who was shot laid on the floor and bled into your carpet. Are you required to keep the blood on the carpet forever?
No. There's
Are
actually
you probably
a pretty good
going to
racket.
have that carpet pulled out the next day as soon as they let go of this thing, and then burn the carpet because it reminds you of something awful, and people would come there and look for especially if they were like looky-loos that were from the press that want to take pictures through your windows of the stain on the carpet. Are you getting some freaking blinds to put up and getting rid of that carpet, you think? This is what we're talking about, people.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a pretty good racket of crime scene cleanup services they will come in and clean up. The only way they'd be able to do that is if the crime scene is no longer existing.
Right.
They can't vacuum around the shell casings that are supposed to stay there for the next 60 years. Like,
now,
as long as that guy was in the army.
There are some things that do last forever. Like, for example, a seized vehicle might stick around forever if somebody was executed in a car or they used the car as a weapon. And I think I told you this example, but up in Montana, the office up in Montana actually has a truck. It's like a shitty old Toyota that like has been sitting in their garage forever, and it was seized as evidence. And then the people that were involved in the prosecution, they died from some other reason, maybe from their injuries while they were running somebody over or something, but it was a vehicular manslaughter or a vehicular whatever homicide. And then they seized this vehicle, and then at the end of it, it's like, now we have this damn thing, and it's a crime scene, and it was a weapon, and it was evidence, and there's no one to release it to, and we don't know what to do with it, so it sat there for like 10 years. So you can hold on to that, but you're not going to hold a public area. If somebody gets killed in the street, how many deaths have you investigated on, let's say, ground or street on an Indian reservation? Anybody ever die from like a getting hit by a car or drunk driving or any of that stuff?
Oh man.
How long do they shut down the street?
Oh, we shut it down for a couple of hours, and then we cleaned
And then
it
what?
up. And then it was a
Well, why were
highway.
you covering up the death? Why were you covering it up as you you just let people drive over a crime scene?
I guess so. I guess I'm not a trained investigator, and this is probably a nice like deviation that I should tell you this story about a guy who fell out of the vehicle and then had the rear tire run him over and kill him. And then we established the perimeter.
Wait, he killed himself with his own car?
No, his girl, she ran him over, and then
it.
she went and ran away. She was the murderer. And then while we're holding the crime scene, somebody broke through in a vehicle containment and then ran him over again. So we couldn't determine which run over incident caused which injuries to the dead body. So the secondary runner over, he was drunk and he went to jail for DUI.
Also guilty of a crime, but something
But
else.
for a brief minute, I thought, like, is this a giant cover up? Are they trying to, just obliterate my crime scene? And then I realized, no, I'm not living in the Charlie Kirk investigators' minds, and I live in the real world. And Occam's razor on an Indian reservation is that another drunk Indian happened to just drive on through.
Yeah, people are, I'm just watching our chat kind of like scroll past. If you guys are watching, you get to read some of the stuff that goes on and the discussions that happen on the side. After 4 days of someone letting a crime scene up, just the same way that people were really freaked out about the Butler roof. And I'm not even sure that the picture of people washing down a roof was the same one, because I've never seen the FBI clean up a crime scene ever. I bet you that was a shed somewhere else, and I've never heard anybody validate that picture.
Yeah, and I think that's a healthy skeptical perspective to have. Like, you would have that perspective after being told that it was a bat that flew 600 miles and infected the entire globe with an upper respiratory infection, that was the most plausible explanation. Like, you're like, there's a picture of somebody on a roof, but I don't know where, I don't know when. Those are reasonable questions.
I have no way to tie that person to the thing that they think it is. All right, we're going to go over documentation from the courts, because what I found by all these people, which is they're immediately paving over the crime scene. They went down 10 inches to get rid of the explosive residue. It's like,
went to bedrock.
Fucking retarded. It's the deepest retarded thing ever. And what I also know is you haven't read any of the documentation that came from this case that has been filed by either team. What you've done is you've listened to retarded people that are wildly speculating. They have no burden of proof on them. There's literally nothing that keeps them from saying any wild thing that comes to their head. And then you end up saying dumb things. And so all I'm asking people to do is, if you were the kind of person who said, I believe all conspiracies because the conspiracies are right more often than not, you should also realize that, like, it's possible you're believing retarded people. It's just as easy to believe that the moon is made out of cheese or that it's a alien superstructure just because you don't believe that technology existed in the 1960s, but maybe it did. And there's actually some decent stuff that says it's probably more likely than not they landed on the moon, even though some people will go like, whoa, you're wrong. It's like, I've just seen what people have said. There are things on the moon that make sense that you can actually see with the naked eye, or you can see them with your astronomy capabilities today. And they had to get placed there sometime, unless it was the aliens, in which case that's fine too. All right. Leave your comments, your angry comments in all caps. That tells me that you think you know more than people who have actually investigated crime scenes before. Please let me know your tremendous experience below. You may hear it out on the audio platforms right now if you're listening. And we're going to go over some court filings in just a second. So hang on for that. All right. We'll leave a space for the audio platforms now. Steve, I'm coming back to you, and we're going to do what we sometimes do here. This is a filing. This is the bind over. I think is it called bind over or bind over? They're trying to establish that Tyler Robinson needs to remain in jail, in custody, from now until whenever. unless there's no probable cause to believe that he committed it, in which case they'll let him go if the judge comes out with that. That'd be like a grand jury returning a no bill, I imagine.
Yes, that would be pretty devastating to the prosecution.
I don't think that's happening. So we're going to go through, they actually go through the actual fact pattern as being argued by the state, and the state is being represented by the attorneys in, this is what are they called? They're called the county attorneys in Utah County. Okay. So this is who they are. This is their attorney numbers. This is their identification. This is where they're based out of in Provo, Utah. This is their email, I guess, if you guys want to see. This is a public filing. I downloaded this today to go through it. Just some of it. This is the judge's name. And this is after the 5-day preliminary hearing, which there's all kinds of, that was mostly televised. Okay. Here we go. It is likely as straightforward a bind-over decision as the court will ever see after admitting to several friends, including his roommate, his romantic partner, that he assassinated Charlie Kirk at UVU on September the 10th, 2025, in front of approximately 3,000 witnesses. The defendant surrendered to law enforcement for that crime. These admissions, along with others, establish probable cause to support most of the elements of the charges. DNA testing, surveillance video, eyewitness testimony buttress those elements and demonstrate probable cause to support the remaining elements. The court should bind over the defendant for trial on all counts. So that's their argument, is that he should remain in, and then these are the facts. Can you talk about maybe the difference, as you understand it, between arguments being listed as facts in a court filing like this versus the arguments being made in, let's say, a civil trial, like the burden of factuality of it? And I'm we've both seen the Brian Cole Jr. stuff and some of the things that they've claimed are quote unquote facts. Mm-hmm. Do you think that those things that they say in those filings versus this, that they're actually facts, but the facts don't lead up to the story? Can you talk about kind of maybe the difference you would see between saying these are facts and therefore here's my assumption of what they mean versus this is a layout, and this is very different, I think, of they actually cite evidence each time in order. This is like, I don't know. People keep telling me they're the same type of case. I don't see any commonality between them.
No, I don't think there's a lot of overlap between Brian Cole Jr. and Tyler Robinson, other than it just creates some media interest from some people who want to like solve the case from behind their computer screen.
What specifically are the lack of commonalities that you, okay, because this is always, we always get this stuff. And people will be like, oh, you were right on this and you're wrong on that. It's like, okay, maybe. What are the non-commonalities? What are the disconnects on these two things?
Well, I think the nature of one crime versus another. I mean, this is a violent act in the daytime where the person was shot in front of 3,000 people versus somebody creeping around at nighttime during a time where it's kind of an abandoned location because of the coronavirus lockdown. So they're very different in nature. Then also the time that was required, and then turning yourself in versus not turning yourself in. Allegedly, Brian Cole went on the lam for half of a decade and kept the FBI specifically at arm's length. They never were able to get anything, having never changed his habit of life or his credit card or his car or his cell phone. I mean, that sort of stretches credulity versus the guy who goes on the lam for a few hours and then his family goes, we don't want him to die, so we'll encourage him to turn himself in. And then he came forward and turned himself in, like, objectively.
So the interesting thing that people have failed in this timeline too, and they make all these claims like trying to guess they're trying to guess things that are not being argued. That's number one. I see a lot of that. What I see is that the cop on the stand said they didn't know Tyler Robinson's name until he turned himself in. So they didn't have him. They had obviously some footage of what had gone on. Mm-hmm. So they were tracking, but these were unidentifiable. This is, the black pixels on a screen. You're like, okay, well, that's the egress route. They were showing that, and when they were doing the manhunt, but they didn't have a name and they didn't have a face, and there were any number of people that could have been up there. It's way easier to say, this is the face I'm looking for in a crowd, or this is the vehicle that I know that the person was in, and then follow somebody. But you have to know what the vehicle is, which they didn't know. You'd have to know who the person was first. When the person comes in and says, I did it, and you're like, okay, people wrongly confess to crimes all the time.
All the time.
They regularly come in and they want a notoriety for it. It actually happened at UVU on that day. Some guy stood up and said he did it, and they took him into custody. Then they cleared him, and he was a nut, right? And has a lot of weird stories about who he is and what's going on. Bobby Sauce brought them up. I'm down with that. Like, there are weird people that either show up at events illogically. It doesn't mean they were quote unquote in on it. It doesn't mean they weren't. It just means you kind of have a lot more burden of proof to be able to prove they were if they claim something and what they claimed is not true. So if you tell me I shot the guy, it's like, cool, where's your rifle? It's like, I vaporized it with my mind. Okay, well, then maybe you didn't. I hid it. Where'd you hide it? Nobody knows. It's a secret. You have to find it. Maybe you'll find it after it materializes. I'll tell you where it was. So when you have that sort of thing happen, the claims is that he didn't confess. The prosecution argues that he confesses, and they have to be able to prove that. And if not, the credibility of this entire, these prosecutors, if they make an argument that somebody confessed and they did not confess, they're going to have giglio too. Like, can you even do the job of a prosecutor anymore?
No, I mean, because you've actually lied on a court document at that point. I guess it's like James Baker, theoretically.
Unless maybe you work for the federal government and you lied about some J6 stuff.
Or FISA warrants.
This is why it gets so problematic.
Page.
You can look at this and you can go, look, this is a random group of people living in Utah that are not politically connected to anything that has a political outcome directly. This is not like, if you could prove this, then Donald Trump doesn't get to go back into office. If you can prove this, then what? It's like a guy got shot. He obviously got shot. He's obviously dead. The people who believe otherwise, I don't know what's wrong with you.
And when it comes to the pipe bomb, there was independent investigations. Not I watched grainy video, but actual independent investigations with access to some of the evidence that was at the fingertips of law enforcement in the form of...
Which is the people in Congress... And obviously the other people followed up on it as well. There were actual people who had discovery rights that were in the J6 prosecution groups that they were trying to defend against prosecution. And some of these things were argued in their closing arguments or in their sentencing statements. So yeah, there were other actual investigations, not just people staring at cell phone video and deciding that, where is it here? Like, look, it's a new rifle the day afterwards, which has nothing to do with anything, and it's being carried like it's a toy, right?
But this is it's so much more fun to sit at your desk and look at your
what
laptop than be Steve Baker and go out and actually get down on hands and knees and measure the size of bricks like a real investigator.
Well, I do actually have some people doing that. Can I show you what it looks like?
Sure.
It's actually also hard to deal with. Stand by one. Some people have actually gone out there. This is a woman... I keep forgetting her last name. It's an Italian last name, and her name is Brandy something or other. So she went out and videoed the roof, and she determined that you could not do the thing that's claimed in this document, which I'll read in a second.
Just by videoing a roof? Okay.
Here we go. No, she'll make the argument.
It is. I'm at UVU right now on the Low C Center, or very close to it, and it's not gravel on the rooftop, you guys. It's rock.
So the difference between gravel and rock obviously is a big difference. That's the railing that it takes to get over. That's what you have to jump over to be able to get onto the rooftop.
It's big rocks. I don't know how someone could lay down on this edge and make an imprint in the rock and have people say, oh, well, we know someone was there because of the imprint. Make that make sense.
So nobody could move those rocks that were the size of like half your hand.
You would, as a grown man, you would make no impression on it at all, particularly if you were crawling or anything like that, like in moving things to the side.
I mean, those are clearly rocks and not gravel. I went to a beach that is covered with, we'll call them rocks because they weren't gravel per se. Nobody put them down as gravel. And as I sat down, my ass made an impression in it. It's insane to me to believe this, but I actually made an impression on the rocks.
Wow.
And as I walked through the water, which was also full of rocks, I disturbed all the rocks as I walked down, which is impossible for a person who weighs, I don't know, north of 100 pounds. Let's just say that guy is the skinniest guy ever, which he was skinny. Here's where it gets really dumb. The argument that is being made by this is still the most logical story to me, and it's really easy. It's like, it's not, for people calling it Fed slop, how many of you have read this and then were like, that doesn't make sense? Based on what? What contrary information do you have other than your feelings? On September 10th, Charlie Kirk and the organization called Turning Point were holding an event. We'll accept that that's the case. After the event, he was seated under a canopy. He was positioned on the west side of the amphitheater. That seems to be pretty well established. But they have exhibits to show this stuff because this is what evidence looks like. They took pictures at the scene. They established the tent. All right. At 12:23:28, an attendee standing at the in front of Mr. Kirk was questioning him when a gunshot rang out and a bullet struck the left side of his neck. The bullet's trajectory was front to back, slightly left to right, and downwards. They have pictures that go along with this, state's exhibits. The medical examiner concluded the cause of death to be homicide. There was a forensic investigation conducted by the ATF that revealed the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk, or Mr. Kirk, was a .30 caliber class round. There's a lot of 30 caliber class rounds. There are 300 blackout. There's 7.62 by 39. There's 7.62 by 51, 7.62 by 54. There's the 30-06 rounds, et cetera, et cetera. There are many ways, and oftentimes the same bullet can be used and chambered in different, what do you call them? Brass on the back end. So you could have a different charge and it can go into a different chamber. But essentially, the projectile can often be the same. And you can buy the same projectile and stuff it into different things. All right. It created a complex entrance gunshot wound, which means it went in probably tumbling or weirdly sideways. It didn't go in. So maybe the rifle had a destabilized round as it entered, and it fragmented in Mr. Kirk's neck. Nothing mentioned here about Superman neck, just so people are aware. The bullet, or at least parts of it, sequentially perforated the anterior left side of Mr. Kirk's neck. Oh, wait, there was a medical examination. Strap muscles on the left side of the neck, the common carotid, the left internal and external jugular veins. They gave you some evidence here. This is the evidence or the exhibits. The bullet also obliterated the left side of C2-7, which is a vertebrae, and transected the spinal cord, the cervical spinal cord. So that means it entered the C-spine. He was dead instantaneously, for whatever it's worth. You can just tell from this. That is a wound incompatible with life. The medical examiner observed a significant portion of Mr. Kirk's cervical spinal column was traumatically absent. What does that mean to you as someone who's read these things before?
Not there anymore.
Destroyed.
Yes.
Yeah. C-spine destroyed. Spinal cord destroyed. No, you can't survive that one.
No.
He suffered other severe injuries, including bilateral, apical and posterior, intercostal hemorrhages. So that's ribs, pulmonary hemorrhages and hematomas, multiple disruptions of the thyroid, the cricoid, and the tracheal cartilage.
But there were rocks on the roof.
There were rocks on the roof. The medical examiner observed hemorrhaging around his heart and the hemopericardium, both sides of his lung, left and right hemothorax. So there are two ways that you can, there are two sort of general insults that people see that are in the hemo or the pneumothorax. This is either air or there's blood in the lung cavity. This stuff happens. This is a devastating wound. So for anyone who's like, oh, how did this happen? And it stayed in. It's like, it sounds like it went off like a bomb inside of his body. That doesn't mean that there was a bomb on the outside of his body made of a microphone.
I was just going to say, you proved the point, Fed boy.
I know, exactly. The subarachnoid space around the cerebellar venous and the also parietal regions were in his brain. Those were also affected when the bullet struck Mr. Kirk. This guy, who people have called out to be some sort of, I guess he's in on it too, Christopher Bagley from the UV police, was stationed on the south end of the walkway in the Hall of Flags above his canopy. Based on his experience with firearms, we see this kind of language all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Training and experience. Bagley believed that the bullet came from a rifle fired from a position east of Mr. Kirk's canopy, recognizing that the building, the Losi building that they just showed you where the rocks were, was on the east side of the amphitheater. Someone on that building roof would have had a direct line of sight to Mr. where Kirk is sitting. The arguments in this case are, like, by people who are not involved in this, have claimed that you can't see the spot from that place. You've seen gunshot, what do they call it? Reconstructions?
Yes.
Have they come in and done ERT?
Yeah.
On a shooting? I'm just asking, like, briefly.
Yeah, I've actually seen it, like, at a local level, but yeah.
Would they rule out whether or not a shot could be taken from a certain area based on the reconstruction they do?
I mean, it effectively does. I mean, they don't specifically say, like, well, we clearly say that it doesn't come from the north, but they just say, like, this is the direction it came from. Ergo, the assumption would be it didn't come from any other directions.
I don't know how anybody would imagine that the state is going to go in and present this to 12 random people, unless the 12 people are in on it too.
Yes.
And show you that 12 random people are going to believe that a building that is not in line of sight would be a place where they would stage, like, the number of things that would have to be atrociously bad so that retards on the internet could poke holes in it is all of them. And the problem with it is that we lived through COVID, for me. Because people saw that they have tried to sell us this stuff. The difference is everybody goes, no, that's not real.
Yes, and they go to the most extreme thing. It's back to your comparison about, well, I don't think we went to the moon. Okay, well, you can believe that, and you can be a completely reasonable person and make a reasonable case. It's, well, we didn't go to the moon because it's actually a weapon system from the Empire, and Empire Strikes Back. Like, all right, well, then you're crazy.
That's where you lost me.
There's a difference there. Now, if you want to make the case of, like, hey, there's some reasonable questions here, but I don't have the authority to know those answers, I'm going to have to be patient and find out. And meanwhile, I'll itemize the questions that I do have that haven't been answered with the full knowledge and expectation that those sorts of things will be fleshed out in a trial. then again, that's more reasonable. If you want to even proffer a potential sort of conspiracy that to me is far more believable, it's like, hey, it's actually that law enforcement failed to do things like monitor China's bot systems that could be driving somebody into madness and then encouraging them to go do a terrible thing. But we don't want that to be adjudicated or that to come out, so we're not going to allow Joe Kent access to this. Like, that's more of a conspiratorial Fed cover-up to me. That's far more believable.
100%, and I totally agree with you. All right, we're going to keep pushing through some of this stuff because the picture I showed you earlier, which is right here, this is the reference. Can you see the figure on the bottom left? Can you see that? Sort of the grainy, shitty, blown up, the Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's clearly something in hand. Yes?
Yes.
And it looks like it could be some sort of straight object that is also limp in certain areas.
Yes.
And it looks like if they're claiming that the box that's on the ground there was the towel-wrapped rifle, that's a real plausible explanation. You don't need to go that far. Like,
no.
You have to explain far more that they found things that look like they belong in that video. To say that it was set up. But again, apparently he was blown up by a microphone per Candace and some others. So this is the actual argument being made by the state, not the feds. The video shows this is the guy like dropping down, crawling, getting to the prone position. I think everybody sort of accepted that. The funniest thing is the Candace people were like, there was nobody up there. And then they're like, it wasn't happening. And it's like, well, it was happening. But it was a decoy and he was a secret military acrobat. He was a military acrobat who did a weird lateral crawl that no one in the military has been trained to do, as far as I know, ever. At least not in the American military, unless you're carrying a 60-pound machine gun and you're trying to do a low call, and that's the best you can do is you got to get up higher. The video further shows that at approximately 12:23:28, the moment of the gunshot, the individual quickly stood up and then ran across the roof carrying a long, skinny, blacked object, eventually dropped down on the north side of the roof. One of the things that people have argued online, and I'm just kind of like poking out some of the silly stuff here, somebody said that he was a top 1% performer in his high school, and he was a skinny, nerdy kid, and therefore he was not athletic enough to have done any of these things at 22 years old. Were you a top 1% performer, Steve Friend, putting you on the spot?
Academically, yes.
Yeah. Were you a pretty athletic guy as well?
Yeah, I mean, I could play one on the weekends. That's fine.
Were you skinny?
Yes. Yeah.
When you graduated high school, were you skinny? When you were 22, were you skinny?
Yeah. I've been pretty slender guy for most of my life.
So you couldn't have crawled up to something, taken a shot, and then run and jumped off something?
No, I guess it's physically impossible to be somebody who is like a Rhodes Scholar and a football player.
That's never happened before.
Never. Unless you're Pat Hayden, who was the athletic director of the University of Southern California and a TV commentator.
So there are people that are also smart that play sports. Mm-hmm. And some of them are skinny.
Yeah, I mean,
used to
have
work
you
with
seen
a
a
bunch of
punter in the NFL? They don't tend to be like overweight guys.
Impossible. I was really lightweight when I graduated high school, also a top 1%. And it turned out like this stuff doesn't look that hard to me. In fact, I did a lot dumber shit than this. I did it when I was in the military, when I was 27, 28, 29.
You did the military. I mean, I after having graduated top of my class or near the top of my class, I went and carried a gun on my hip and engaged in foot pursuits of criminals. So it's possible.
Surely not, you skinny bastard. Okay, the video shows that approximately the moment the gunshot rings out, there's someone carrying a long, skinny, black object, eventually drops down on the northeast side of the roof. I think everybody's sort of been on board with this now that they believe it, even if it was an acrobatic, super secret soldier. The individual crossed Campus Drive, entered a wooded area on the north of campus, goes off camera. Obviously, at that point, in the wooded area, police later recovered a rifle wrapped in a black towel that is compatible with the visuals that people saw. This is why you have to give me reasons why things don't make sense. There has to be some illogical thing. Like, for example, if you were to say, and that rifle was purchased, 10 days after the shooting. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, oh, well, if he bought it after the shooting, then how did it get there on the day of the shooting? I don't understand, right? If you tell me that somebody started building a bomb before you say that he was incensed to be able to build a bomb and he was building a bomb because of an election, but the election hadn't taken place yet, now I got questions about what you're arguing. If you say that somebody bought something and that's how they built a bomb and then they discarded all the stuff for the bomb stuff, but then they built more bomb stuff later and they managed to avoid you, and they got rid of the bomb stuff because they were trying to avoid detection, but then they kept doing what they were doing beforehand. I got a lot of questions about it because those are not logical when you read the story. The FBI story in Brian Cole Jr.'s case is absurd. Yes. It doesn't make sense to people who are investigators. So far, you haven't lost me yet. And I'm open to being lost. I just read this document and it doesn't lose me. just like the probable cause statement they made originally didn't do it.
And you're really grasping. I mean, I listened to a little bit of your conversation with Bobby Sauce, and it seems to be like we're objecting to how the media reports something, or how somebody who's uninvolved is saying something and maybe got a fact slightly off. Oh, you're saying that somebody on TV somewhere who doesn't have access, similarly to you, to the information, might have said a statement of fact that was incorrect. Ergo, the entire thing is a cover-up. It's just strange credulity.
Investigators reviewed hundreds of hours of UVU surveillance footage that tracks forward and backward the person that was seen on the Losi building at the time of the shooting. After the defendant turned himself in, here it is, after defendant turned himself in, which he did, he gave himself over, which could have been a false turnover, right? He could have lied about being involved. Investigators reviewed the footage searching for someone matching the defendant's description and driving his car. Did they ID Tyler Robinson and then go grab him and they were going to kill him? No, they had no idea who he was. He turned himself in for reasons that are described later on. And then when he did, they were able to go, okay, well, based on this guy, could he be the person that we're looking for? Is he in this crowd? Is he in these stairwells? Is he driving a car that matches? Does his car show up on campus? And the answer is, those efforts revealed a vehicle registered to the offendant arrived on campus the morning of the shooting. They give you some exhibits. They give you some timestamps of whatever it is they're looking at here. The surveillance video also shows the individual believed to be the defendant walking around. They say believed to be because they're making an argument, walking around the UVU campus that morning, going to the railing of the roof of the Losi building, and then leaving the campus.
Yeah. So, and he physically matched the description of the individual who shot Charlie Kirk, whereas Brian Cole has arms that are so long that he can tie his shoes without bending over, and shoe sizes that are 3 sizes too big to fit in the shoes that were walking.
Right. And the person who saw the pipe bomber on the night of said it was a white person.
And there was a gait analysis done. So
then we go on. All right. Investigators ultimately determined that the defendant visited the UV campus at least 4 times on September 10th and 11th. Now, you have to argue that that didn't happen and that the feds are lying about this stuff and they can't prove it, even though they have video evidence of the guy showing up and doing that. That's hard to do. Twice. And by the way, the defense can make that argument. They're just going to have to be able to prove it. This is still logically consistent. Twice before the shooting, a 3rd time just before noon on the 10th, and a 4th time in the early hours of September 11th. He was shot on the 10th, so he came back. Interesting. The surveillance video shows that when the defendant returned to the campus just before noon on the 10th, he was wearing different clothing but the same shoes. These things are easy to see. He was walking with a limp. The defendant's roommate and romantic partner, Lance Twiggs, confirmed the still images taken from the portion of the video that show the front views of the individual definitely did look like the defendant. Now, people have said, well, he said he's not 100% certain. Have you done PIDs on people where someone said, can you describe a positive ID real quick?
Yeah, I mean, you show, you could be showing the 6-pack, you could be doing show up, you could be doing the 1 photo at a time, for all these different strategies about doing it, and you tell the person, do you see the person who could be there? And often they'll say, like, well, that could be the person. That looks like the person.
Right.
Because nobody can be 100% of anything, right?
Now, does everything
happen quickly?
Does everything hinge on that person saying maybe, or that looks like, or it looks like person?
I had a drive-by shooting, and I did an absolute photo array for the person. Mm-hmm. That case, that person testified at one aspect of it. We didn't be like, oh, well, we got a photo lineup done, so we're done here. We did forensic evidence. We got eyewitness testimony. We talked to the significant others. We had the victims coming in. I looked at the vehicles, ballistics. This was an entire array of evidence, and one particular avenue of it was the victim looking at a stack of photos saying, yeah, that's the guy. It looks like the guy who shot at me.
It's not stacked only on that. You never just leave on like a PID is never by one person is not sufficient. Obviously, that doesn't overcome reasonable doubt. People make mistakes all the time. Given the extensive review of the surveillance footage, investigators concluded that the defendant was the individual who was walking with a limp to the stairs that accessed the Losi building shortly before noon, who was on the rooftop at the time of the shooting and who dropped off that rooftop and made it into his way. So the point that I keep seeing people say is they're like, you can't tell who was up on that roof. It's like everybody agrees on that. You can't. It's the totality of the circumstances that you track somebody who matches the description, who gets out of the vehicle, who's been tracked on surveillance. Have you ever done multiple surveillance camera tracks?
Yes.
And so you go, okay, well, I can't tell who it is in this. I can't see their face, or I can't positively identify what the moving figure is at this distance. However, this person just stepped out of another camera that was known where it was pretty obvious who it was.
They can't tell from the video footage who the pipe bomber is either.
Ever.
Which is
which is different because the pipe bomber's face is never shown.
Correct.
Another major difference.
But are you saying that the surveillance camera the footage would not be evidence in a trial against the pipe bomber? Of course it would.
Yeah. Now, the upside to when someone shows their face, walks around with no mask on, and then maybe they're in a place where you can't see who they are, or maybe the camera angle is so far away, is you can say, well, they came onto screen from this, and the person that was there was in this shot, and this shot is someone that we can establish who that is. So there's a big difference in this. Again, the commonalities between those two cases that people want to draw, it's junk. All right, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think the greatest proof that you have that this isn't like some giant conspiracy where it's all sewn up so nicely and eloquently is that the federal government allowed, though, the state officials and district attorneys and sheriff's department to conduct their entire prosecution here. Like, if it's a giant Fed op, why would the feds let a state entity handle it?
It's true. Approximately 12:36 a.m., so just after midnight on September the 11th, the defendant returned to the intersection of Campus Drive and 800 South on the UVU campus. Then they have some footage of that. This is from their presentation on day 2. He attempted to turn south on Campus Drive, but was turned away by an officer that was at the intersection. Ooh. How weird. I mean, that guy probably feels pretty bizarre, too.
Yeah, it's not his fault.
No, of course not. Campus Drive then leads to a wooded area where the rifle was eventually found. So what you get there is a picture that the defendant was returning on the midnight. This is after midnight, but on the same day. So Kirk was shot on the 10th, and then just as the clock rolls over to the 11th, he's driving up trying to recover the weapon system, or likely is.
He hadn't gone to bed.
Yeah. Now, they don't even make that argument, by the way, that he was there to go and get the weapon. They just said the weapon was found there, and he was trying to turn on the drive where it was. So we can fill in the blanks on that as a logical thing. Someone driving that vehicle was going there. DNA testing from the screwdriver recovered on the Losi building and the towel that was wrapped around the rifle provide very strong support. They use the exact words of the report that they have, very strong support for including the defendant as having contributed DNA samples. And what they said was it was quadrillions to one that it was not him. All right. Or quadrillions to one that it was him, that it wasn't an outside donor of the DNA.
Yeah, that's the level of certainty they have with the. And again, look, that's the same thing as the positive ID. It is possible that it's not him, right? They put that in there because they're being completely honest with it. They're saying, like, there is a possibility, even though it's 1 in a quadrillion, that it isn't him.
The state's Exhibit 31 at 3, DNA testing on the recovered rifle's trigger, the trigger guard, the grips, the protected underside of the receiver. So that'd be the part that would be inside the actual stock, as I can understand it, as they're describing it, which would be things that would be hidden from whatever dirt, grime, exterior. Other parts as well as the fired cartridge casing in the rifle, supported including the defendant as having contributed DNA samples as well. The DNA evidence, like, this is the only thing that the defense tried to refute. And they didn't refute that it wasn't his rifle, or that they basically tried to say, was the testing possible so we could have a technicality that says that somehow you had a tainted, or what do they call it? Like a contaminated sample?
Or, yeah, something like that.
So they went after the 3 experts, and they brought in the federal examiners from the FBI, I assume. It doesn't say, I just know they were federal employees, but there were 3 federal employees in the entire 5-day hearing, and none of them were called by the prosecution because they didn't need them.
How long is this document?
It's 28 pages. We're just a little ways into it.
So is that longer than the Brian Cole charging document?
Great question. I can't remember how long the original one was.
I feel like that was a 12-page document.
Yeah, it might have been 11 pages. Yeah. Anyway, now they list the thing. So here's the argument. This is what their actual argument is. And then what they say is there's probable cause to believe that the crime was committed as described by the information. And there's probable cause to believe that he was the one who committed it. It's not even a close call is what they say. They have more than enough evidence to say that probable cause. Probable cause is a pretty low burden.
Yes.
I've done a grand jury where you walk in there and you're reading somebody else's police report.
Yes.
Which is taken as fact.
Yes.
And then answering questions out of that police report. And then you get a true bill. That's the end of it.
Yes, it's extremely easy to. And the saying that you can indict a ham sandwich is pretty close to accurate.
I have given testimony that is literally me reading from a police report things that are in it line by line on guns that I didn't touch, in crime scenes that I've never been into, with information that I could not substantiate, but it's written down in there, and so I'm testifying, this is what the police report says, blah, 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 and I'm telling you that that's what the police report says, and I'm just there to be a reader of the police report and answer questions that are logical, either from the attorney or from the members of the grand jury. And when that happens, those people end up being arrested. Like, there's probable cause to believe based on that.
We had a resident agency in North Platte, Nebraska, which was like a 9-hour drive to Omaha, where the grand jury was. So once a month, one of the guys in that office would drive, spend the night in Omaha, and go to grand jury for everybody and testify on their behalf for cases that they weren't involved in. I mean, that's as long as you're law enforcement and you can swear this out on behalf of somebody else. Like, that's how easy it is.
The purpose of the preliminary hearing is not to determine guilt or innocence, even though everybody seems to be like weighing everything they have. They don't have to do anything except, like I said, they could have somebody read a police report. But rather, the purpose is to ferret out groundless and improvident. Is that what it says? Improvident? I don't know what that word is. Prosecutions.
Yeah.
I've never used that word in my life.
Improvident?
Improvident. I like it. They're supposed to spare defendants from basically substantially degraded and the expense of a modern trial. If there's garbage, if they don't have anything against you, then they shouldn't be able to do it. Probable cause is a pretty low burden, though. The preliminary hearing is the constitutional safeguard against unwarranted provisions where it appears manifestly that either no such crime was committed or that the suspicion entertained of the prisoner is wholly groundless, which is the claim that the people who are saying that there's no way possible that he could have done it. They easily overcome that with the things that are out there. Even the fact that he turned himself in. I mean, is anybody arguing that he didn't turn himself in? I haven't seen that. How did he get identified? They didn't know who he was. He turned himself in. Why would he do this? Mm-hmm. Okay, mentally ill. That's one possibility. Looking for attention is another one. But you were actually on campus 4 times and that people could substantiate that you were there. And then you believe that there's like a bunch of like face-off clones that are running around in CIA skin masks or what? I mean, it's just the setup version of it looks absurd to try to argue. And people are wildly running around with it to the point where they're finding new rifles the day afterwards.
Iguana rifles.
All right. They tell you what the problem, like the way it works in the Utah Constitution, the fact that there's a low bar, what the magistrate has to determine. So they just argue. This is the way all these legal briefs do, what it causes to have substantial evidence in support of reasonable belief. And reasonable belief is it's not shadow of a doubt, right? This is not beyond all doubt.
Nope.
They just have to view the light and evidence that's most favorable to the prosecution and draw reasonable inferences in favor of the prosecution. That's what they say. This is literally what they're quoting out of the state's finding here. That's what the magistrate is required to do. So tie goes to the government when it comes to the indictment in this case, or the probable cause to believe in this hearing.
Yes, the probable cause threshold is far lower than you would have to meet at a trial with the jury where it's beyond a reasonable doubt.
Here you go. The magistrate can disregard or discount prosecution evidence only if it's so contradictory, inconsistent, or unbelievable that it's unreasonable to base belief on the elements of this being the charge, that the evidence basically has nothing to do with or cannot be true based on some internal conflict. That doesn't exist. It's just not there.
No, that would be like the gun was purchased the day after the shooting. So therefore,
correct.
You couldn't include that in this.
It would be the same as saying that somebody discarded all of these things, and the reason they discarded them is because they said they did, but then they were also buying them afterwards. You'd be like, how does that work out? Mm-hmm. By the way, they still indicted Brian Cole Jr. Did they not?
Yes, they did. Yeah. All
right. They actually laid out some of the evidence in this as well, which I think is worth doing. How about this one? They have to identify how the counts are laid out. So aggravated murder. And there's things that are like knowingly or intentionally causing the death of somebody at great risk to another. So these are the elements of the crime that are laid out. You have to meet
every element. This gets explained to every jury at jury trial. You have to meet every element of the crime in order to convict of the crime.
So the evidence establishes, and no one disputes, that Mr. Kirk was killed on the 10th by a gunshot. No one disputes this. Nobody says it wasn't a gunshot wound.
Stipulated. Yes.
That means that if there's a conspiracy and it's an exploding microphone, that the defense is in on it, just so everybody's on the same page.
Yes.
Because you dispute that. You'd be like, well, it wasn't even a gunshot. It was actually a microphone. They have not introduced that in at all. So now you have to tell me that not only the judge and the jury, or not the jury, but the prosecution, not only the investigators and all the evidence people, but also the defense and the family members are all on board with somebody who didn't shoot.
The defense includes the defendant, by the way.
Right. He'd have to go on board with it. The evidence also demonstrates a reasonable belief that he was the shooter. The defendant repeatedly admitted that he shot Mr. Kirk using the defendant's grandfather's rifle, including, and then he has the following, and you guys can not like it, but they didn't refute this stuff. They didn't go out there and they didn't try to impeach it. I had the opportunity to take Charlie Kirk out and I took it. That's weak. I am the one who did it, they say. I'm sorry. This is coming from chats. Why did I do it? I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I'll have no evidence. Yeah, all this stuff sounds really retarded. Do you know how many super smart super criminals have been caught in your experience, Steve, friend?
None. I mean, I guess the Unabomber's dad or brother turned him in, and he was.
Yeah, he could have probably gotten away with it for a lot longer.
Yeah, but really, like, if you're as Candace Owens asserts, this is a professional job. They don't take long shots like this is Bob Lee Swagger in the Shooter movie. They come up right behind and they either do some sort of like poison, or they, take a 22 to the back of the leg and then to the dome. Then when it's an obscure time of day, there's nothing that's like high drama movie level assassination attempt. So it's only happened in Hollywood.
This only happens in Hollywood, or it happens by dumb people who don't know how assassinations take place. Mm-hmm. Like, no serious person is doing this kill like this. It's mentally ill.
There are a host of professional assassins who are in prison right now for the mob, and not one of them was setting up with a rifle from hundreds of yards away.
None. And then the other fun thing, I talked to Gary Melton. People will be upset about that, but like, I talked to Gary the other day and I was like, can you imagine, like, he's shot people from a long distance away. Can you imagine relying on the signal from some guy that's in the ground? He's like, what happens if somebody walks in front of the person when the signal's given? Why would you have visual and when you could do radio because you have line of sight?
Yeah, you would take your eye out of the scope to look for the signal.
Most rifles have a pretty narrow field of view at 150 yards. And so if you're looking through a rifle scope in a way that you're going to accurately be able to shoot someone, you're not going to see people that are standing 10 feet to the left or whatever. So none of these things make any sense. In any case, there's all these different things. You guys can read them on here. I'll post a link to this if you guys are so inclined. You can download and read the document. You ought to. If you think that things are not explained, one of the fun things is that there was a shell casing that was found. There was an unfired .223 round on a different roof. You ready?
All right.
It was actually addressed. This is the smoking gun that some people say that there was something else going on.
It was the low-C building.
Correct.
Wasn't there also a bullet found on another building?
I believe an unfired bullet had been found on another building at some point during my time there on September 10th. Yes.
Which building was that, sir?
I don't recall.
Was that considered a scene that was worth preserving?
It was not. My recollection is that was accounted for as an ejected cartridge from an officer who had cycled his rifle.
Okay, I thought you said it was an unfired bullet. And now you're saying it was a cartridge?
When a weapon is cleared, an officer would make his rifle ready, which would chamber around.
Oh, I got you.
My understanding was that how that was accounted for.
So an officer claimed that bullet belonged to him or her?
That's my recollection, is that was how it was accounted for.
So they actually went forward and got the evidence they needed to account for that round. Yeah, that was
how would they do that? So I'm imagining active shooter, hit the rooftops, guys with rifles going up to make sure that there's not more shots.
Yeah.
And then all clears given.
Yep.
No additional threats.
And then they just
and they go from the chambered round.
Pull the slide back and
they pull that magazine.
And we're
they
like,
put it back
holy
into a
crap,
pouch.
where'd it go? I can't find it.
Right. Apparently because there were rocks.
Yeah. I mean, not gravel. If it had been gravel, it'd probably been easier to see.
If it had been gravel, they probably would have found it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Losing a rifle round in a bunch of rocks or gravel on the roof, it's like, okay, yeah.
All the time.
Now, the forensic examination said that there was a .30 caliber round. They can tell this by the weight of the round. Do you know what a 5.56 cartridge, what the upper limit of a 5.56 round is?
No.
It's like 77 grains. It's probably about as heavy as you'll ever find. It's anywhere between, I've seen some as light as 45 grain, but they're measured in grains. So your AR-15 pattern rifle, which is what cops are using, generally speaking, are shooting 55 or 62 grain rounds. Some of them are shooting slightly heavier, like maybe a 70. Some are shooting a 77 if they're doing precision or accuracy. Don't ask me why, but I've got all these things in my garage. So, which doesn't surprise you. if you're shooting these things, they have a weight, and there's an association with the grain equals X number of grams, right? And it's just they use grains because it's some sort of a bullet. It's the way that the guys who load bullets use it. But on the lighter end of a 30-06 round, it's like 150. So you're not going to mistake the amount of material that makes up one of these rounds for the other. They're not going to accidentally get the wrong one. You're not going to say, oh, this could have been a 55 grain bullet, but it comes up to there's like 103 grains of it or 110
Yeah, the
grains.
overlap isn't there where it could be one or the other.
It's not close. And for anybody who thinks that you couldn't lose a round on scene, I'll tell you, I've gone over the back of a fence. We were securing something on a pedophile's house. It was a row house, and there was no access. There were buildings on all sides, and so they had a backyard with like fencing on either side, and then the only fence that we could get was the rear. So we rolled in with a ladder, no shit ladder, and I had to jump over I couldn't get the ladder over the fence. It wasn't tall enough. So I had to throw my leg over and climb down. And when I did, because I'm a lefty, my right-handed setup rifle with a magazine release on the interior banged against me when I hit the ground, dropped the mag out, and because the FBI mags were all of the dog shit mags that had the shittiest followers in them, they didn't have the cool Magpul ones that keep them from anti-tilt. It tilted, and I spilled like 3 rounds out of my magazine while I'm going in to like do a security, sweep for a search warrant. And so then I grabbed the mag off the ground and I slammed it back in, and now I've got like 3 loose rounds on the ground. And we ended up obviously recovering them, but they were on scene, and it's possible I wouldn't have found one. It was dark. And then, when the light comes up, you're looking for the rounds. I know that I lost a few. I can go knock them all out and count them. But that's what you do. You knock them out, you count them, and you go, we're looking for, let's say there was a shooting. We'd be like, oh, we're looking for 62 grain bonded federal ammunition, that's consistent with this style casing. Can we find one? Oh, there it is. Seraphin, you cleared your rifle and you left a freaking round on the ground. And you're like, roger that. And it goes into somebody's report as a anomaly on the crime scene, determined to, and then cleared. That's what the guy just said on the stand. It's just not actually hard to do this stuff.
Yeah, it's not like a crazy explanation for all these sorts of anomalies that are being asserted by people who want to keep digging and doing their investigations online.
Guys, we're only like a third of the way into this, and I'm not going to continue going on. They talk about the engraved rifles that were there. They talk about him talking about engraving the rifles. They had a witness there that said he went out there and was engraving rifle rounds, and then he went and talked about him in the chat. His Discord chat and so on. The conspiracy here is people who are deeply and desperately looking to affirm something, which goes back to what we were talking about, the COVID story. As far as I can tell, this is something that goes right back to this NPR story here. And it's like people are willing to believe whatever ludicrous things they think because it fits the worldview that they want to believe. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not there's evidence for it. And everyone, when you ask them for evidence, you get nothing. Mm-hmm. You get nothing. The evidence is that there is no evidence. There's no evidence that this guy did it. It's like they haven't presented the case yet, guys. I already told you what the level of burden is. It's so low. They don't have to give you the whole case, and they've already given more than enough to make it seem like it's most plausible. Now, if they fail to prove the case, we'll all know it, and so will the jury.
I find it more offensive with what's going on here because this has nothing to do with just about anybody who claims to be investigating. It doesn't impact their life. They're
not in Utah, most of them. Yeah. They're not going to be on the jury. They have no say in it. They have no ability to introduce evidence. They have no ability to arrest anybody or to explore or subpoena records or verify their claims. Just spinning shit out in the world that has how about the guy that wants to tell me about the micro whatever it is, high energy explosive material?
It's a hobby for them. It's no different than the vultures who are picking on the carcass of Charlie Kirk to run his show. They're exploiting the death of this dude to entertain themselves to a certain extent. Meanwhile, the amnesia that has set in on coronavirus has effectively led to amnesty, and that did affect every single person.
Yeah, and I guess if you don't get justice on one thing, maybe you assume that there will be nothing that's like there's nothing fair in the world. I think that's a reasonable excuse. You could believe that nothing is fair. It doesn't mean that everybody's out to get you. And it's so funny. I've had actual legitimate, I'll put the chat back up for a second. Steve, I've had actual legitimate federal surveillance on me. Almost guaranteed.
Same.
I've also imagined that there was federal surveillance on me where I was probably wrong.
Sure.
And I've also run down leads thinking that somebody was surveilling me when they were not.
Yes.
Now, there's a plausibility that somebody could surveil me. The FBI subpoenaed my text messages. They subpoenaed my my emails. They went after my X account and some other things. And I know that because those records were unsealed, right?
Yes.
So I know that these things happened. But it doesn't mean that every time I thought something was weird, that it was the thing that I thought it was. In fact, most of the time it turns out it's not. And in the intel world, we talk about chasing ghosts. It's very common that you see something that's not there because you are set up in a either high threat or high emotion or a high danger environment. So you recognize patterns that have the potential of being threatening, and then it turns out that they're not actually the thing that you thought they were.
Yeah, I think when you're all geeked up and you want to be hyper vigilant, it's just a defense mechanism. I mean, you're not walking around in code white. You're not code black. I mean, you're like in orange.
I live in orange.
Red.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a way that you would operate, particularly if you're dealing with a lot of stress, particularly if you're living in this strange branch of the multiverse that you happen to live in or I happen to live in, that when I go to fly next week, I'm going to step back from the line and look around and be like, where's the fam? Where's the surveillance team? I'm just going to presume that it's there. And that's just the way I'm coping with it. Now, does that mean that there is one there? No. Does it mean that if I see somebody that's kind of acting like what I perceive to be a little bit weird and hinky, that I'm not going to call my wife and be like, oh, I spotted him. I could be right. I could be wrong.
You're totally going to do that. You're going to tell me too.
Yes.
100%. You might even take a picture of the guy. And you might be right and you might be wrong.
Yeah.
You're also not going to be in a position to be able to like interrogate the person and find out.
No, he's going to get on the plane no matter what, right?
Right.
So that's just the reality that you're living in.
For me, the interest that I have in this nonsense, and I think it's nonsense, it's less about people that are curious about something that they don't understand, which they don't. It's more about people deeply investing in and this is breaking up friendships. I had some of the guys that I follow online, like there's a guy named Jess that reached out to me and he goes, apparently we don't agree on the Charlie Kirk thing. So now we're bitter rivals. There's only one excuse, Kyle. We're going to have to podcast to the death. So Jess and I will do a podcast to the death soon where we will battle to the end of our abilities. And the funny thing is, it's like we agree on enough things. There's plenty of things that we probably don't agree on. I know you and I don't agree on everything. 100% we don't. And yet we could be friends because we don't. If you thought that Egyptian planes dropped off exploding Mike with some people to do an Israeli assassination and had multiple patsies, and if that was your belief about this, I'd go, I mean, it wouldn't affect the other things that you and I talk about.
Yeah.
If that was the all-consuming dictating thing in your mindset, that if people don't agree on this, then I can never talk to them again. Alex Jones thinks this was a setup. I think Alex is nuts on that. I think Alex is nuts sometimes. I like Alex. I'm not going to walk away from him. I like him more than Roger Stone by a lot. He called for the impeachment of Donald Trump. I'm not real crazy about that because I just don't think it matters. I just think it's like, well, you're acting like it is going to, who are we going to get? JD Vance?
The people are acting as if this is a core belief, like it's their religion. Like that would be a reason that you could see ending a friendship or something where somebody's fundamentally has a different religious view to the perspective that it drives the way that they conduct themselves all the time. Like,
here's your wrap up.
In my religion, then it's perfectly fine to molest little kids. You'd be like, okay, dude, we can't be friends anymore.
Here's where I think that plays in. This is a news story that happened yesterday. My wife, she's like, have you seen this? I'm like, yeah. The initial claims were that 18 people died in Spain as about 30,000+ people hit their shores from Morocco. It may be as many as 30 something. So 18 to 30, 18 to 40. It should have been 3,000 and the rest of them should have been turned away back to Morocco. If there was a thing, if I found out today that 30,000 Muslim men were coming into the state of Texas, I think I'm ready to mobilize. I think I'm there. If you told me a bunch of teenagers and young 30s and 20 somethings from a Muslim country are going to come into Texas illegally, and they're going to surge the gate as future whatever the hell these people are, I've got some capabilities to add to that fight.
Yes.
So I'm okay with the idea that you say these people are invading my nation. They are doing so violently. The mechanism, especially if the mechanism is we can't do anything. By the way, the Spanish actually dispatched their National Guard or whatever the equivalent is to come and try to deal with this. They were unprepared. That's a major failure as well. That looks like they were in. You don't get 30,000 people on the seas coming across Morocco and not
hard
know
to
it.
miss.
So there are things where you go, the probability of you not being able to recognize a threat of a mobilized force of 30,000 people landing on your shores in a period of a few hours, I don't believe that's possible. In the same way that there are, caravans and migrants and blah, 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 all that other shit. We knew they were coming, and we have forces that are meant to repel them. And generally speaking, they sort of did, or they were allowed in, right? Yeah. Now we're in a space where we're looking at this where, okay, fine. the same thing here, so this happens from Morocco into Spain, if that same thing happens at the Gulf of Mexico down at Galveston, they're going to take over the island of Galveston, Texas. I can be down in a couple hours. I'm happy to show up for that.
Yeah.
Okay. And people in the chat are like, get ready, because that's what happens when the Dems take over. Oh, I'm fully aware of this. I understand that. But what you believe is that there's a difference between the Dems and the Republicans. What I see is that Republicans turn the faucet off and Democrats turn it back on, but nobody has changed the law. Nobody has put a codified version in because Donald Trump is not in charge of the party, which is where I started. People are looking at a place, they're like, we thought that something was happening because we did it. We're so back, baby. Mm-hmm. The broken nature of I voted for a guy that said he was going to do this thing and he didn't do it equals all kinds of other wild things. And then you end up thinking that there's exploding microphones that people who made money off Charlie Kirk would have done because what? Like, do you think this? Imagine being a security guy running a security company, losing the highest value asset or the highest value principal you've ever had. Are you going to ever get security work again?
No, not that. Not
so
to
what's
that level.
So what's the freaking end game there? A major payoff? Like, did these guys disappear with millions of dollars and run off to an island somewhere? Like, I just don't. I don't know how people make these connections without the next step. It's like, and then, right? What was that? Wasn't that the Aston Kutcher? And then. Does anybody ever ask and then?
No.
It's like, okay, so Erica Kirk is involved in killing her husband. Fine. Okay. And they're like, and then she's in charge of the organization. And you're like, and then they're like, everybody thinks it's an Israeli op and nobody wants to talk about it anymore. And then it goes out of business. And so she loses out on hundreds of millions of dollars of income potential for a guy who was in his 30s.
Yeah.
And then it's like, then what? Then what happens? Yeah. Like it doesn't logically follow that the things that they're accusing people of would make any sense.
Well, it doesn't have to, as long as this entertained them today and then something else happens tomorrow or 6 weeks from now or 6 months from now, and then they can just assign all of their attention to that. It's just the next thing that they can investigate and dispute and say.
I can't wait till they get back to figuring out about the second gunman at Butler. I can't,
know whatever happened
because
there.
that was another thing where I was able to spot people who were retarded, who had nothing to do with it, who had no knowledge base, and they suddenly were experts on all the things they're not. Ballistics, crime scene exploitation, crime scene processing, crime scene releases. Yeah. You know, they just suddenly have, they're like, my favorite is connected. The word connected does an awful lot of lifting in all these things. Seraphin is connected to Patel. It's like, okay. Some guy actually pointed out that he's like, Patel gave you $10,000. I was like, that's true. Yeah, you know that because I told you that, by the way.
Yes.
That was not released by anyone except me. Okay.
No, it wasn't like Julie Kelly's political contributions that got dug up.
By me. Right. So Patel gave you $10,000. I'm like, and then what does he say? He says, you were in the military. And then that was in the opposite order, but yes, okay, all true. And then you were in the FBI, and they're like, and now you think that Tyler Robinson, killed somebody.
Connections.
And I was like, whoa. Homie, what do you think that establishes?
Yeah.
You just named 5 things over the last 17 years of my life. Mm-hmm. And that means what? I'm like, there's a lot of glue in there. Like maybe I told Kash Patel how to fix the FBI and then he didn't do it. And then so now he doesn't want to give me, he's spending tens of thousands of dollars to come after me with his girlfriend. Oh, he also mentioned that you're being sued by his girlfriend. I'm like, how do you, what is this?
Yeah,
what are we doing?
Look, there was a pipe bomb dropped on January 5th.
Jesus Christ. Hold on. Excuse my language. There were snipers in the trees. Just shut the fuck up, people.
There was a pipe bomb dropped in our national capital January 5th, 2 of them.
That's right.
And then on the 6th, there was trespassing that occurred at the Capitol, and that was never connected. And I've said that for the last 5 years. Like, there was never an evidentiary connection. Same thing. Didn't make sense. I said, look, there was probably a carjacking that happened in Southeast DC. Mm-hmm. Was that connected to the Capitol? No. You could just throw out facts that happen to overlap with time.
And have nothing to do with anything.
Nothing to do with anything.
Anyway, the only thing that reminds me, and some of you that are looking out here going like, how do we end up in this world? How did we just end up in this place where some of the dumbest people are articulating the dumbest positions and a bunch of people are flocking to it? Just remember, The average IQ in America is 100.
100.
And there are 3 standard deviations of people below that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they represent close to 50%. So when I see that graph that was out there, that was put out there in December of 2020, pointing out who was believing things that were true and things that were false, I bet you there was a big overlap in the people. In fact, let me go back to this as we wrap up here, Steve. Let me just show the graph. Okay, this is the conspiracy graphs. Some of the people in the green on some of these things are in the yellow on the other things, because human beings have different thoughts about different items. And it turns out some of their ideas are based in logic, reason, facts, evidence, etc. And some of them are based on feelings, emotions, and what they want to believe. And just because someone tends to believe with you on this doesn't mean they have any reason to believe it necessarily. They could be completely retarded. There's a reason why they always show that sort of like the meme where it's like the guy who's like a drooling retard. Then you've got like the cerebral loser. And then you've got the person who's the Jedi at the end of it, right?
Same conclusion, yeah.
The dumb person can believe the same thing as the genius for completely different reasons.
There's a Mulder and a Scully in everybody. It's a yin-yang.
Yeah, I think we all want to believe.
Some stuff, and other times we got to use evidence.
Yeah, we just can't. I mean, all right, I'm tired. Steve, what are you doing? You got your podcast coming up and it's about to run
going
right now.
brother.
You taped it. What do you got going on?
I had to do it because my family's coming to visit, so I headed on over there when the Kyle Seraphin show wraps at AmRadPod, talking about how Ozempic is leading to marriages being destroyed.
What?
Isn't that great that Maha is now on board for government-subsidized Ozempic?
Wait, why is it going away?
Well, I guess people are feeling too hot, man, and they're just stepping out. And then Kash Patel lost a recent lawsuit where a guy called him a googly-eyed chud, so I laughed.
He did. And by the way, that's Jim Stewartson, who I agree with, that he's allowed to say whatever he said. Jim Stewartson is he's a dickhead.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, we have things in common. And I was like, we do. We're both being sued by this idiot. And and his lawsuit is garbage. And you have the right to call him a googly-eyed Kremlin bitch or a chud or whatever he called him. He called him some really nasty stuff. Sure. And it's like, you have a right to do that. I would defend that all day long, even though I don't agree with almost any of his beliefs. That's the funniest thing in the world. That was a great example. And so anyway, so people should tune in and hear that lawsuit because it's very silly, it's silly the way that it went. It's silly that there was a default judgment entered.
Default judgment for $250,000. I hope that he didn't buy the girl who's his friend lots of jewelry with that. Hope he held it in escrow.
Well, he never got it. Yeah, because it went under appeal immediately.
Gotcha.
Yeah, after he announced victory on that, then Stewartson was like, "You never even served me, you freaking googly-eyed chud."
Oh, so the announcement was the victory? Oh,
that was the victory. Oh, like everything else in this administration. Steve, we're so consistent. I hate that we're like that. All right, buddy. It's been good hanging out with you. Thanks for helping me try to keep my mind right. Chat, if you're not following Steve, you're missing out.
You are. And you're missing out more on Spotify because they keep getting taken down for playing robots that are trying to teach kids. And the AI is taking me down to protect the AI.
Whatever.
It's all a cover-up.
It's all a cover-up. The AI is protecting the AI. Buddy, have a good weekend. We'll talk soon.
All right. See ya.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's all I can do. I'm going to post this document. If you strongly believe that you know what's being argued and you think that the feds are involved, read the document and find me where the feds are involved, because there's just not. And I don't need to cover for the FBI. I'm happy to punch the FBI. I think the FBI is wrong all the time, except when it's not. This is the dumbest thing about hasty generalizations, which is what the fallacy is. The fallacy of hasty generalization says that because I believe one thing about something, I believe all the things about all the things. It's just not reasonable. Of course, there are decent people working in every police department. There are tons of cops that do bad things every single day. Have a little bit of discretion in that. Anyway, you know that if I'm on the same side as Daniel Bongino on something and at the same time in the same podcast I can make fun of him for being a doofus, if we can do that, we should be able to have a little bit of nuance in our thinking. Just don't be the person that doesn't have any at all. All right, I don't even know if I have anything funny. I feel like I should. Let me see what I got. I think we might have played something last night. How about this? Yeah, this is kind of funny. God has a sense of humor, we sort of think. Here are some maladies that people have for no particular reason. Let's have fun with it.
Right. So off-rip, appendix. Doesn't do anything, but it will explode sometimes, and if it will kill him.
That's fun, right?
I'm just spitballing here. Wisdom teeth, well, it sounds fun, but we'll make them useless. Actually, you have to get them removed, or things will go very wrong. Throw them to the dentist, I feel like I've been neglecting them. Toenails, sometimes
grow into the feet.
Make 40% of people not be able to see without glasses.
And don't invent glasses for a very long time. Yes.
Make it so, like, a good group of them will die if they eat a peanut, but make peanuts delicious and other people enjoy them. So that when they eat the peanut, it's going to be a big surprise and their throat's going to close up.
We gotta thin the herd, gang.
I just thought of the word hiccups. I don't know what that is or what that could be, but just make sure it's the most
annoying thing possible.
Actually, could we move the fun part of the body right next to the poop part of the body? And just see what they do with that. I'm curious. Another word that just popped into my brain, allergies. Just make it so, I don't know, 2 entire seasons out of the year are
unlivable for a large percentage of the population.
And for my final trick, make some of them gay, but make the rest of them hate that.
Yes, that'll be fun to watch.
You got to get the last little bit in. I think that's where we're at right now. Make some of them gay. But other people really hate that. Guys, we're living in a silly time. Work on your Fs. That's my advice for the weekend. We're going to do that here. We're going to a bunch of parties for kids and things. I'm also going to be on a game show podcast this evening. And it's going to be at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And it's called Are You Smarter Than a Politician? I suspect that I'm going to get set up and I won't be smarter than some politicians. So if you guys want to tune into that, you can see it. God bless you. Have a good one. Look forward to seeing whatever's coming our way on Monday. Take it easy.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.